move that the minutes from the January 22nd, 2013 regular meeting, both of the closed sessions, be approved as amended.
Seconded, moved, seconded. Any discussion? Doug, I'm talking to you too, don't worry, you're not that far away. Any discussion? No discussion? Can we move to a vote? Okay, all in favor? It's unanimous? Thank you. Next up, Frank Aguilar. Ready? Yeah, we're ready. No, I know. Come, I'm going to move back a little bit and you move over. Oh, wait, I know what I'm trying. Just 1 second. Can I do it? Oh, you're right? Okay. All right. Let's go back. Yeah. Well, go ahead.
All right. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me once again to the board, and also to speak to the shareholders. Pretty much what I want to do tonight is just give you an idea about what is the sales and transfer office doing nowadays when it comes to selling apartments, and also to give you an idea, to give you more or less an idea of how many apartments were sold in 2012 and how we're doing this year in 2013, and also all the changes and results that we have been doing Morningside sales office. So pretty much what I want to give you as an objective is, once again, I want to give you a comparison of the current sales for 2013, 2012, and 2011, and also want to point out challenges that we face, the sales office face, and all the actions that have been taken and the results that we have obtained by the sales office regarding apartment sales. And I will also give you an overview of what are my goals for 2013 as the head of my department. Just to give an overview, just to give a little bit of historical background for the last 2 years, the sales and transfer office has changed its way of doing business. And one of the reasons we changed of the ways of doing business is because the waiting list has become obsolete, with the exception of the 3-bedroom apartment, which is still active. But when it comes to the studio, 1 and 2-bedroom apartments, the waiting list pretty much is not active. Also, we have tried to reinvent ourselves so we can originate sales in a more effective and faster manner. And one of the reasons, one of the ways that we did it was, one, by collecting we began collecting apartment sales data that helps shareholders to determine listing prices based on recent market prices instead of utilizing the Morningside maximum result price. Also, we have doubled the open houses, and we hold them weekly instead of twice a month. In the past, we used to do it twice a month. Now we do it every week, every Sunday. We're here from 10 a.m. to about 4 p.m. or whenever buyers come to Morningside to see apartments. Also, we began to advertise in various real estate websites to bring more buyers to Morningside real estate market. As a result of these changes, in 2012, Morningside reached a total of 37 apartment sales, as opposed to 18 sales in 2011. Now, these 37 apartments it was a combination between brokers and also the sales office. So far in 2013, Morningside has already sold 5 apartments. 2 apartments are expected to close or be sold in the next few weeks, and 7 other apartments are currently on the contract or with accepted offers. Now, the challenges that I was mentioning before is happening in 2011. Apartments were listed at the maximum resale price, creating a large inventory of apartments. Most of the apartments sold in 2011 were sold by brokers. As in 2013, there is still over 20 apartments listed at the maximum resale price or above market, which makes it hard for the sales office to sell these apartments. Also, Another challenge that we faced was that we had a lot of sublets in a lot of apartments on the market, which it discouraged buyers from putting offers, and the apartments also are not accessible all the time to show to potential buyers. And also one of the things that made us a little bit it was difficult for us to sell was because we didn't have an advertising budget to market apartments properly until 2012. Before 2012, my department didn't have a budget to market apartments, just like to give the same services as the realtors do. Now, the changes that we did was in 2012, the S&T office began educating shareholders who placed their apartment on the market. The office provided shareholders with reliable data about recent sale prices in Morningside, and an estimated time for the apartments be sold if it is listed within market price. In 2012, the Tenant Selection Committee also limited sublet to 2 year maximum for apartments on the market. Before that, any apartment on the market could sublet as many years as possible as long as the apartment was still on the market. But that changed. In 2012 also, the Board of Directors approved an advertising budget for the sales and transfer office in order to advertise in different real estate websites and newspapers. Now, as a result, in the beginning of 2012, Morningside had over 60 apartments on the market. By mid-year of 2012, it went down to 48 apartments. Most of the apartments that were placed on the market in 2012 were listed at market price. It took an average of 2 to 3 weeks to get the first offer for each apartment. Having shareholders listing their apartments at market price from the very beginning facilitates faster sales. Additionally, it saves 6% commission payable by shareholders if property is sold by a real estate agent. In 2013, due to an aggressive online advertising, 7 apartments have accepted offers, which obviously those 7 offers have been through the office. After the Tenant Selection Committee limited subletting for apartments on the market, within weeks these apartments received offers, and most of these offers have been accepted. Now, the results of 2012's advertising budget. One, we are able, the sales and transfer office is able to advertise apartments online. Also, we are able to provide services just like realtors, because finally we're able to advertise each apartment or some of the apartments on different websites. Also, most of the apartments that are advertised online have been put on the contract within average of 28 days. Just to give a small graph, we have, and for March, we have 2 interviews. One is have been done by the S&T office, the other one has been through brokers. Right now, we have whatever is on the contract. 3 apartments are on the contract have been originated by the S&T office, and 2 by brokers. Now, my goal for the 2013, for this year, one is for the sales and transfer office. We always are committed to selling apartments and definitely to obtain the highest price possible by aggressively marketing every apartment. The S&T office will also continue to provide sales information to empower shareholders to determine a price for their apartment in line with market price. The sales office will also continue to conduct open house every Sunday, and we will be also available during the week to keep showing apartments. The office is also expecting to close about 20 apartments by June 2013, and an additional 20 apartments by the end of 2013, by the end of the year. We're forecasting about 40 closings by this year. Also, we will continue marketing all the apartments equally, but placing special attention on estate apartments with the largest arrears. That's pretty pretty much the objective that my office has been doing for the last I would say in 2012 and part of this year.
Thank you, that was really nice.
Thank you. Any questions for Frank?
Do you have a hard copy of that report?
I will actually make it available to the board. Yes.
Anything else? Dan, yes, please.
Hey,
Oh, this.
very, very helpful. When you say, so you talk about like marketing them all equally, how do you do that? I mean, yeah, especially like an inventory of 40, 50 apartments, whatever it is. I mean, how do you decide what to advertise, what to have an open house in? How do you do that?
All right. So that's a pretty good question. Pretty much, when it comes, well, we have two different ways to advertise. I mean, based on the bylaws, we still advertising to the waiting list, even though it has become obsolete. But we still advertising whatever apartments on the market. We have to send it to them. That's one way of advertising all the apartments to the waiting list. Another ways to do it is, yes, we put some of the apartments on the market online, but when any possible buyer comes into Morningside, we take them to see additional apartments, so they can actually have all these apartments can have exposure as well. Because also, if we put too many apartments online, it shows that we have a vast inventory in Morningside. And still in question will be rising. Why are we? What's wrong with Morningside? Why do we have so many apartments? So we just put a few of them in order to attract people, and then take them to most of the apartments in Morningside.
Anything else, man? Anybody else? No? Thank you very much, Frank. That was a great report. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
We appreciate your hard work. It's very good. All right. Tonight we have Keith Werney here from CSR. He's the big boss of the northern sector and outer boroughs of the world of CSR. And he has asked for a few minutes to speak to us since we have completed our first year. We're in our second year with CSR, and I felt it was appropriate that he have a chance to speak to us.
Hello, everybody. What I wanted to do is talk just briefly about the first year of management here and some of the benefits I think we brought, some of the areas that we need to improve, and go from there. The first year, as I said, you had Russell, you have Sabrina, we have a set management team. I think the integration with the current Morningside team has worked out really well. And one of the things I think that Russell is very focused on is working with the building staff and bringing further efficiencies there. We hope that you're going to see at the end of the year on your operating budget and your audited financials that there are some real savings that were accomplished as a result of this. One of the things that we've done this past year as well is within our agreement we had language regarding supervision of the capital projects where Cooper Square could outsource the project management. But in order to better provide service to the board and to look to do what's best for the building, we had, Russell has been overseeing a lot of those projects, and it's not something that Cooper Square is looking to benefit from. We had the exterior project as well as the boiler project that was done. The chimney, I'm sorry, the chimney. So the good news is there that you're back operating on gas finally and interruptible service. Some of the things over the last month or so, there are some issues I know that transpired that we're working on improving for the building. One of the things I know we have in place is with the maintenance bills. I know the last month or two they've gone out a little bit later. They're going to be on the first bill run. One of the issues was that was with the timing of the increase, but it should not be an issue going forward. The 1098s, we're aware of what wound up happening with them is that with one particular building, was it building 6?
Building 1.
No, building 1.
9 floor above.
It was a building, it was an apartment, there was a Morningside Heights apartment that did not have a social security number listed for it, which threw off our program when printing it. And then also with the overall, I know everyone received a letter indicating that the 1098s were initially incorrect. It's because of the way the 1098s are calculated here are different than other buildings. And the January maintenance run was used with the 4% increase that created that. Next year, it should not be a problem. We're gonna put in place that the accountant reviews it before it goes out, and we review it before it goes out, so that should hopefully eliminate it going forward. With the unions, the health pension and annuity, we have in place a system that, again, for 32BJ, which is your largest union here, there were no issues, but with some of the smaller issues, the timing of the health pension and annuity, there were some concerns there. We're dealing with the payroll department to avoid that. And then the last item that I'm aware of is we're going to be working with the board in regards to the brokerage of the commercial space and identifying some options for brokers for the board to consider for that space. With that as well, what we'll be doing in the management report going forward is identifying all the commercial leases, when their expiration dates are, so they will continually be showing up. So that will be appearing on each and every board meeting. In regards to our management contract, there was a provision in there for that we would be eligible to request for a $10,000 bonus. With that, I spoke with Larry and I've agreed to, it's not something we're going to look for. We're looking for a long-term relationship here. It's not about nickel and diming. It's about us wanting to do the right thing for the owners at Morningside and for this building, and I'd like to stay here for a very, very long time. Also, we discussed with the compliance fees, they were already, when I negotiated the contract with Dan at the beginning, they were negotiated very tightly, but I agreed to reduce it an additional 10% for the building, and that would be effective next year. And then also, as I said, when Larry spoke with me, we had a discussion about looking in regards to the inconvenience that was caused to the owners with the whole issue of the 1098s. What I agreed to do is for our management contract renewed February 1, for February and March. For February, I'm going to give credit for our 2.5% increase for that month, and also for March. So as I said, I'm looking forward to, not I, as I said, I want to thank Russ and Sabrina and the rest of the team for their efforts for moving forward this upcoming year.
Did you get that written down?
No.
Because
I forgot everything I just said, so.
Okay. Did you have anything else?
No.
Okay. Anybody want to say anything? Want to ask questions? You sure? Okay.
Do you?
No, I'm fine. I just wanted to make sure everybody else was fine. And thank you for being here tonight.
Oh, no problem.
We're going to come up to that particular topic. It's in here, the broker issue, and we can discuss how we want to handle that at that time. But I think we have an expedited way of doing it. John, you don't?
No, I'm just thinking of conversations we've had in the past and nobody's saying anything.
I know. I'm a little surprised. I think he took our breath away.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, we weren't kind of prepared for this. I mean, I think that there's, we're gonna, it's, I mean, I think there's a time for a, for kind of like a 1 year sort of assessment, to think, the things that, have gone well, things that, need improvement, but, I think that,
I didn't know this
sort of-
happened tonight. I got the call.
Okay, no, but, I mean, so, I mean, don't take silence as like, I don't know what you can say silence as, and I think we have something to say, it's just that we're a little.
No, that's, I was requested, I said I come to the, I talked to Larry, I know there's some issues, so I wanted to come to the meeting tonight and speak to the board. And as I said, any time that the board wants me to come back and further discuss, I am more than happy to do so.
Go ahead, Chuck.
I appreciate you bringing up the broker. I know it's on the agenda for tonight, but I think it would be very helpful for us if that were on the fast track.
Sure.
Since we got a little way late with it.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right, so having gotten that far through the meeting, we're now up to the management report.
Good evening, everyone.
Wait.
No, so, I guess there was an email saying that there was, CSR was gonna reach out to the board. You were gonna send out a survey, I think, right, to the board members, just to get feedback. It was like an annual survey or something, I can't remember it. Okay, because I wasn't sure if that had come out already, or do you know when that was,
Well, the NPS survey should have went out in
November.
Yeah, it was like October, November that it went out, and then it stopped, it was in October because we had to stop it because of Hurricane Sandy.
Right, I think, yeah.
And then we finished it actually just the other day.
Okay.
So, did you get
surveyed?
I don't think I did, I have to check it, so.
I can find out, I can look,
Okay.
Marjorie, and find out if you were, and if you were not, I'll get it out to you.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Just out of curiosity, did anyone else not get this survey from CSR asking us to evaluate them?
I think it was rather insistent, if you don't do it, you get it again.
They are rather, it's a third party that does
But
it.
you may not have gotten it, my truth doesn't believe she had it, so anybody else,
If anyone hasn't received it, just reach out to Russell and I can follow up.
okay?
Okay?
We're good? All right, Russell, you're on.
Thank you, Marjorie.
Thank you, Keith.
Alright, good evening, everyone. At the risk of boring everyone, there's a few annual renewals I have to run through as well. But if you give me one moment, I also want to do a handout to the board, because one of the supplemental handout to the board, one of my motions is, can you listen to it? Can you go this way? You get everyone that's good.
There's a lot of things here, right?
Yeah, the front page is the list of what's.
Oh, what's inside?
What's
here?
in this
Okay,
supplement.
okay, gotcha.
Moving forward, our annual insurance renewals, we have our crime policy that is up, as well as our D&O liability policy. I have two recommended motions. Move that the board approves the renewal of our crime policy in the amount of $4,213 for a period of 1/1/2013 through 1/1/2014.
Somebody has to move.
Will someone move that, please? Anybody?
I'll move.
Thank you, Maitri. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Doug. Go ahead.
Do you vote on it, or
Do you want to?
do both?
And let's do one at a time, right?
Yeah.
Shall we vote on it? Is it okay? All right, all in favor? It's unanimous.
The second recommended motion for insurance renewals is moved that the board approve the renewal of our directors and officers liability policy in the amount of $8,456 for the period of 1/1/2013 through 1/1/2014.
Okay, now, you promised to provide, I think in the email, you're going to give us, there's a reason why this went up.
Right, there was an increase in this policy. I reached out to RAL Services to provide additional backup on some claims that were made against this policy dating back to 2008, I believe you said. But the details of that I requested from our broker. At this point, I haven't received it.
But he says there's
Five.
five claims,
Five
right?
claims.
5 claims, so,
42% increase.
yeah,
It's a very large increase, yes.
right.
It's a large percentage increase.
Who's moving this motion? We can't talk, thank you, Maitri, who's seconding it? Thank you, Andy. Questions? Anything?
Yeah,
Go ahead, Doug.
I think we'd all just kind of like, this is such a large percentage increase that everybody was a little bit surprised. And I think a lot of us don't understand like what happens when our current insurance carrier on something like this comes up with such a large increase. What is, RAL is the broker, right?
Correct.
Not the carrier, but the broker, is he?
Correct.
Do you know that he's shopping this to see if we can do better, or?
Yes, every time the policy comes up for renewal or if there's a problem, he does shop other carriers before he makes the recommendation to the board. This was evident last year when we had to, in midstream, change our, I believe it was the policy on property. We had to have a special meeting in the middle of last year. And at that point, he even found a policy that was lower than what we were paying on our original policy. So yes, it's competitively shopped every time there's a renewal request.
Did I get a second on that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did, okay. And, yes, John?
I just wondered if you could give us a little more backup on this, because it's such a big increase, like where he shopped it, what are some of the other numbers he came up with? I mean, you know, the occurrences were in 2008, well, why is it going up in 2013?
What's that, since
It's
2000?
Since
Since
2000.
2008, you had
So-
5 occurrences, that's what they're saying.
They generally go by the loss runs, and it's a harder market now. The whole insurance industry, whether it's, I know this is on, crime, but also your liability, your property, it's a different insurance world. We saw it probably the last 4 or 5 years. Every year there's a decrease or remain status quo. And this is the year that you're seeing, unfortunately, the carriers are looking for increases, and have been fairly significant in the market. But we could probably get from the broker, you should be able to get from them who they shopped it to, and that way you get a better understanding. Absolutely.
Well, I think we have an issue here only because we have an expiration involved, so we have to do something. If we don't renew,
What's the expiration date?
it looks like it
Right, it
expired.
already expired.
We're in the 30-day like grace period here, that's what
That doesn't, yeah, that doesn't really even matter, because if the board does decide to go with a different policy, we could end this policy in March and go on with it.
Right, but we do have to renew this one to stay covered, correct?
Just for
Okay.
the interim period.
We got notice of a policy, of a premium increase after the policy expires?
I think it came before.
No, it did come before. The letter in your package, I think, was dated in December. And I didn't get it into your January packet for approval at that time.
But we're still covered, we're like in a window to be covered. So, what do we?
No, I hope so.
No, I don't think that's the issue, but here's what I'd like to know. But we can vote to approve this, but I think, what is the information we're looking for so that we're clear? We want to know what the 5 occurrences were,
Yes.
okay? And we want to know who we shopped it to,
Yes.
how many companies did he shop it, insurance companies he shopped it to? Anything else we want to know before we go to a vote on this thing?
Well, some of the other premiums that you got.
Well, the other quotes, we're gonna, that's the point. Yeah.
Not just who, but what.
Yeah, well, that's, of course, the names don't do us any good, we gotta know who the name is and the price.
Did Russell, did you just say that even if we renew this policy, we're free to terminate it during the
Yes,
term and
within a written,
switch to another?
yes.
Yeah. Remember how that happened last year when we had to have that special meeting because of the pistols? We had
That wasn't.
they terminated us.
Terminating us.
Yeah, but,
Wasn't
and then
terminating-
we got another policy.
We always have the same right to terminate a policy.
At any point.
Yes.
You may have a limited market from time to time too, so that may be part of the issue as well. It could be the number of claims, and it may have been shopped out, and some of the carriers may have denied, but you'll get that from the list when you request it from the broker.
Well, then let's get, I'm sorry.
Chief, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I just want to, from the last few years, usually Raul will give us people, to tell us how many other companies.
Did you give us a
No, he just said.
Yeah,
right.
maybe you ask for it, and then they should be able to give you
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the
I'm sure they
the
have
price,
information.
and then that's what,
Right, that's
it's,
what we want.
yeah. that
Yeah,
would be
that's what
good.
we want exactly.
Yeah.
Doug?
So let me just ask one last thing of Keith and Russell. Would you have a sense of, putting aside the increase, or whether it's justified or not, or it's the 5 claims are bogus or whatever, putting all that aside, is this figure for a D&O policy, for a co-op like us,
It's not jumping out at me that it's anything earth shattering. The policy now is $8,456. You're not talking
right?
crazy
In my
dollars.
previous association, it was around 13 or 14,000, but they had an extreme number of claims against their DNO.
Yeah, that's not your
Well,
fault.
we're gonna try to keep the extreme
But
number
the
down.
price reflects, obviously, the amount of claims.
I would use that as a good example.
We need fewer board members.
Say what?
We need fewer board members.
Well, we're doing fine, we're under the quarter of 12,000, we must be doing something right. All right,
Okay.
can we go for a vote? Is that okay? All in favor? It's unanimous. All righty.
Next item on my agenda is the renewal of a new lease on the gym equipment. We worked with Marlo, who is the chair of the gym or fitness center committee. We reviewed all of the equipment, and this is we have completed a 3-year run of our original lease for the gym equipment. At this point, we pretty much own the equipment. Marlo actually asked last year also, that was included in the budget, for a budget line item for additional gym equipment. The idea of us renewing the lease is very similar to a car. The longer you keep it, the more wear and tear. We'll increase our maintenance costs should we choose to keep our equipment versus releasing and renewing all of your treadmills and other exercise equipment. So with that said, I have a recommended motion. Move that the board approves the replacement of the gym equipment through a 36-month lease with micro lease for an annual cost of $11,820.
Can we move it first? Can I just move it first? It moved, Alfred, and is it seconded? Doug? Okay. Go ahead, Andy, you're first up.
Just for the shareholders who aren't seeing what we're reading, some of the gym equipment, not the.
Yeah,
gym
the
equipment.
bulk of the gym equipment, I would say.
Well, there's a lot of items that,
So about,
I would say some personally.
well, okay, whatever. It's the ones that needed to be
Yeah, there's
released.
a whole bunch of.
Mind
things
Tree,
I
you
know.
said?
Yeah, was there someone before me?
No, you.
Okay. So, just so I get the math right, we're saying that we're either replacing them, so we're getting them brand new for 32, or we're leasing them for 3 years for 11 years. 11 per year.
Each year.
Which amounts to the same thing, right? So
But also,
why would
we-
why would we lease the 3 years instead of just buying it after?
I believe we get a rebate when we release, when we renew the lease, when we get new equipment, they give us a percentage on the old equipment, am I
Right,
correct?
we're getting back 4,000.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't add up to a lot. But
No, right, we have the option to purchase it outright, but, just for the purposes of annual budgets, it's better to spread the cost over the 3-year period versus then paying the full amount now. The interest rate is so nominal on it over the 3 years.
And you also keep the equipment relatively new with the least amount of repairs.
Yeah, it just seemed like quite an expense.
Yeah.
What a lot of buildings do, that so you know also, it's like treadmills, bicycles, the computer equipment. It's better after they usually will lease that equipment than the hard equipment, the dumbbells, the weights and all that. You purchase because you can keep that much longer. Then you keep it new, you keep your fitness center fresh and your equipment operating hopefully for a longer period of time. And that's the concept and mindset of a lot of buildings that do this.
Chief?
Yeah, just for other people's information, when we did the first one with Gym Source, and then the price I checked, my files, whatever I can find, it's similar. It's not too much increase for this one. So, but I didn't compare like the equipment per equipment, but I can see that it's quite a lot of equipment, and then they also buy back. So I think it's a good deal. And then also, since we use them pretty, a few years, they are pretty reliable for maintenance stuff, right? If we lease them, and then even though we pay the maintenance fee, but I think it's controllable. So they will come when we call them, they will fix the machine, and then, so I think this is good. Just to answer Maitre's question, because if we buy it, it's 32,000, I just time it from the 36 months, like 985 per month, you times 36, it's 35,000. So, but with 3 years, it's about 2,000 or 3,000
Yeah.
more for that.
Dennis next up.
But my question is, since we use this machine, like all this equipment in the gym, for about 4 years, why we are not doing 4 years? Let me check, 4 years. It's lower, the monthly payment, but I don't know how much it will be, so let's see. 4 years, 48 months, I don't know. So I don't know how much.
The proposal offer the 48 months?
Yeah, they have 36 months, 48, and then 60 months.
You just get your.
So 4 years, we pay 1,000 more compared to the 3 years.
In
So,
additional interest, right.
yeah.
You pay 1,000 more to
Yeah,
keep it
for
4
4
years,
Yeah.
but,
I
It's
don't
a
know
year
about
older.
the machine, yeah.
and the equipment's a year older. The question is,
The buyback.
I mean,
That's just my
let's,
question.
not to, just everybody remember, this is a major amenity here.
Right.
Having a gym in our complex is a major amenity, and you don't want it to ever look shabby or not look good, okay? Dan is next, I'm sorry.
Well, okay, so what happens if we don't do this?
If we don't do this, we own the equipment and our maintenance costs on that current equipment will go up in time.
You add for more repairs?
Yes.
How's the repair, I mean, has there been like, I mean, do we know the repair history on this equipment?
Not off the top of my head, but there is in addition, one thing you said I think was a little off. Even though we are leasing it, we're still responsible to maintain it during the period of the lease.
Right.
But as you can imagine, just with a car, your first few years on a lease, there's very little maintenance, oil changes and such. The longer you own it, your maintenance is definitely going to increase. This year, Gym Source submitted a proposal to maintain the equipment for $4,000. which I think was an additional $1,000 more than last year for the maintenance side of it. I actually kicked it back and said, well, until we decide if we want to lease equipment, that monthly maintenance, that yearly maintenance fee will go down to, I think, about $2,000.
If we get a new
If
lease.
we lease it, because
Right.
they're expected to put less work into
And the
it.
question is like, are we, I mean, it looks like pretty big gym equipment. I mean,
Yeah.
why, I mean, is it a matter of like, are people gonna be offended that they're not exercising on like the most state-of-the-art, like today's, this year's gym equipment, or?
It's not state of the art, and I don't think, we're not buying state of the art, we're just we're making sure that our equipment stays as fresh and new. The worst thing that can happen to us is to have our gym look like a place you don't want to go into because the equipment doesn't appeal to the people walking in there.
I don't think we're at that level yet.
No, but it can.
I don't think that's the worst thing that can happen.
But then.
Well, it can because it's a big moneymaker for us,
And
that
they don't
gym.
use the machines, I don't believe, but,
It doesn't look like it then.
some of the machines are breaking down already. Everybody uses it in the regular.
Yeah, I know you're a regular user, and I think Alfred's a regular user, yeah. Yes, wait, let me see. Oh, Maitri, good, it is you, Maitri.
Well, so on my annual pilgrimage to the gym. once a
You
year
go
we
to the
did-
gym, you said?
Once a year, but
Oh,
I
good.
started that. I mean,
Well, it shows once a year, you look good.
I agree with Dan that well, how about if it seems like a lot, it seems like it's a pretty big overhaul. Why not do it in pieces? Because it seems like we've had the gym equipment for, 9 years, right? It's been in place, it's been functional. It doesn't seem like things like, this is 20 pieces of equipment that have to be changed kind of at one.
I think it comes out to 14 pieces or 12 or 14 pieces.
Okay, I'm rounding up. So it just seems like a lot to do very rapidly, and I think in terms of just kind of watching our budget, I think if this can be staged, like if there are pieces that are being put down, obviously those are ones that we should replace first. It just I don't know.
Not all the equipment is being replaced, not all the machines.
Most of the machines are not
And
on this
he said the
list.
bulk of them are, right?
But
So-
if you look at this list, most of the machines are not here. I mean, sorry, the weight machines are not on this list.
Right, the weight, they're not.
Right.
This is the
Corey,
thing.
it's the-
This is not much more than we've paid before. It's a standard amount that's in the budget. We're covering it. It's not something we're
No,
not paying for.
I get that, but I'm just saying that we've had what we've had for about 9 years versus this for 3 years. So it doesn't, and then we're gonna replace it again in 3 years. Like I don't quite get the logic of it.
Andy,
You said this, and I just want to stress what you said, that
Thank
this
you.
is a major amenity, but it's also a profit center, unlike any other of our amenities.
Right.
So we are not losing money on this thing. So I
okay?
just want to say that. I mean, that doesn't mean we need to throw money away, I understand that, but I'm just saying,
Sure.
it is a rare amenity that brings
Okay.
in money.
All right. Oh, John B wants to speak. Okay, I'm sorry.
The nice thing about the gym is that you go into it and the equipment works. The interesting thing is the last couple of weeks, the equipment has been breaking down. So it is coming to the end of the cycle.
Okay, so, hey, since we've beaten this horse to death, can we close discussion? I think so. All right, are we all, shall we vote, please? Good. All in favor? One, okay, and, no?
Yeah.
Okay, one no. You're voting yes, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Okay, next item on my agenda, a new lease on the Canon copier equipment. We are seeking to renew our lease agreement with Canon for 2 of our office copiers, one for our management office side and one for the board office. There's a proposal for a 39-month lease with Canon Financial. My recommended motion is move that the board approves the replacement of 2 copiers with a 39-month lease with Canon Financial for a monthly cost of $1,075.
Now, remember what's happening here. We're getting rid of the oldest machine, which is where the coffee is made in the management office. We're getting rid of that machine, keeping one of our machines, and getting 2 new leased machines. Okay? That's what it says here. Am I correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
and special note, it's slightly, the monthly payment will be slightly
It's-
lower than the last lease. The last
Okay.
lease was $1075.
Good going. Who wants to move it?
I'm sorry,
Okay.
1083.
Okay.
Who wants this?
Thank you, Alfred.
Alfred, and who's seconding it? John? Okay. We're ready, Dan.
Alright, I have a problem with the the length of this, right? 36 months?
39.
I mean, if we are truly moving, as I think, you know, John's committee is kind of moving us into an area where we should be relying a lot less on paper. I mean, if this is going to be a real shift in how we really communicate both to the board, to the community, you know, we really should be reducing the amount of, you know, the wear and tear on the copier. I mean, you know, that would go along with that. And I think that, I mean, let's say that takes a year to get us, you know, I mean, maybe we're looking at 50% capacity, you know, 50% of volume down or something like that. I mean, 25% volume down. You know, we should be lowering that, and I think that, you know, are we kind of like locking yourselves into a contract based on our current volume of paper production that we, you know, we won't be using in 3 years? So.
No, I think we would.
Well, the question is this, Dan. We could start, you know, the website isn't up yet. The website has to get up.
Yes.
Then we have to get people on it.
Yeah.
Then we have to get the emails.
Call that a year.
Well, it could be, but they've been here a year and they still don't have everybody on their website. So, well, it's still true. And 39 months may be the limit we need. And then the next time, we may not have any need for, you know, 3 machines. But I think at this time, it kind of makes sense not to like cut the tail off this thing until we're sure we're at the point. And I think by 39 months, we should have a pretty good idea of where we're going.
2 year lease?
There is, I can go back to them again, but there is another benefit to updating the equipment too. Moving towards that end is the scanning function of it as well. Newer copiers will scan things at a much greater rate at a better quality as well. So this has a feature that lends itself towards that end as well.
Wait, did we move this? We did move this. Yeah, okay. Go ahead, Chief.
Yeah, I think this proposal is really good because I know how much we use the machines, either like in the boardroom and then in the management. And the management office, the old machine, oh my God, it's so slow. And then so I think this is good. For 3 years, after 3 years and 3 months, I think we should be pretty good to know where we are. But for now, I think all the minutes, right? Some of the things, board stuff, we are all printing all in-house.
Flash report, the minutes, that's all
Right,
done?
yes.
Yeah. It's all done here. Andy, please.
So this is $12,000 a year. We have this bylaw with things over $7,500 have to have bids. Were there other bids for this?
No, actually, I didn't go for other bids with this simply because of the type of machines we have. Canon equipment, I can guarantee you, is the best equipment there is. I've done this before. I've gone to other suppliers. You could get Kyocera machines. You could get other type of machines. But one thing I can guarantee you, Canon equipment is the best when it comes to this office equipment.
It's renewing.
It's unparalleled when it comes to the service we need for our copying.
Anybody else? May we move to a vote? Is that okay? All in favor? It's unanimous? No, it's not. It isn't. It is unanimous? Dan?
No, I'm going against this.
Okay, so it's everybody except Dan. Gee, you did vote.
I
yes,
will.
right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, next item on my agenda is the exterior lighting designer. We met with many companies. We started a long process, I think going back for about 7 months, with several companies who have initially came and walked our site for initial walkthrough, submitted bids, and we narrowed those bidders down to 3 that came for a final presentation to members of management, the board, as well as a subcommittee for exterior lighting. Through that process, we narrowed down our selection to Domingo Gonzalez as a designer for our exterior lighting scheme. Before I read my motion, I do want to read something specific. I want to take an opportunity to personally thank Michael Dimon and Cynthia Rock for their invaluable participation through every step of this process. Like I said, it was a 7-month-long process. Their time and dedication to this endeavor deserves special note and appreciation from management, the board of directors, and our entire community.
That's absolutely true statement.
The recommended motion is move that the board approves Domingo Gonzalez Associates as our exterior lighting designer to provide construction documents that can then be utilized by Morningside to seek bids for a complete lighting solution for the exterior grounds in the amount of $104,800, which reflects a 4.9% reduction of the original proposal as a capital expense.
Is there someone that would move this, please?
I'll move it.
Thank you. Is there someone? Alfred seconds it. Okay, it's on the floor. No? Okay. Oh, go ahead, Shane.
Yeah, I just, because, like Russell gave us the chart, yesterday.
Yes.
With the different, companies, the proposals. Can you tell me, or some of the people?
I can tell you, I was there.
Oh, okay, you are in that subcommittee, right?
Yes, I was.
Yeah, so I just want to know what's the outstanding, issues, and
All right.
they're better than the others.
I'll explain. At the day they came to Morningside for the meeting, seven of these companies showed up. Out of the 7, 5 responded with packets of material back to us. Now, there was a meeting that day in which we spoke to the group and explained to them what we wanted in the way of a lighting design, what we needed, what areas needed to be done, what had to be looked at, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Out of the 7, 5 responded. 2 were immediately found to be flawed. They were deficient. There were 3 left. Of the 3, we invited them to a meeting here. Each company had an hour and a half to make a presentation. To cut it to the short part, each company made their presentation, but when Domingo made their presentation, Domingo Gonzalez touched on every single concern that we had stated all the way back at the beginning of the process. Not only that, during the process, during that time frame from the first meeting to the last meeting, one of his people came on site, we almost arrested him, and was taking pictures to absorb this place, to capture the place, to look at it. When he came to the meeting with 5, counting himself, 5 different people. Each one of these people was a particular person that would be working on this project. The engineer, the designer, though he's the principal designer. The other 2 categories, I forget, it drops out. But, what? Project manager, and there's one more. But here's the thing, he brought them to the meeting. He made a fabulous presentation and showed us what he has done. He did, out of the 3 companies, he did the most, he was involved in the most designs of any of them. No one came close to the number of designs. He had pictures of all his designs, and he made a commitment to us to do what he does for every project, to provide us with 3 options, a low cost, a middle cost, and a high cost. Doesn't mean that will be the only 3, because his designer seems to have the need to create more when nobody's watching the store. So we could wind up with 5 or 6 designs, but the point is there will be 3 guaranteed. What he promised and what he has done in every job is when he delivers these designs with the costs attached, the costs are real costs. When you go out to bid, the bid will match the cost on the job. There'll be nothing that will not be taken into account in his contract that would require the bid to be extraordinarily different or in any way different. It should come out to the dollar amount he's speaking about. Okay? So his presentation was overwhelmingly the best presentation. And Cynthia Rock told us that he is the tops. She didn't believe that he would actually show up the day we had the first meeting because he's just too big. And he showed up. And he's the one that came in with the best report back to us of what he is going to do, which is everything we told him we needed to do. And no one else could do that. No one else brought an engineer to the table.
Speak to the unanimity of agreement among all of them.
Oh, it was after the meeting, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, I think there were 5 or 6 of us in the room. We let Domingo leave, and we said, look, we have to come, hi Cynthia, we have to, I think we should decide now what we want to do. is there any doubt in anybody's mind who the winner is here? And everyone agreed, this is the guy. We want this company to do the design. So that's how fabulous this guy was.
And then I just want to continue my question. I saw in page 35, there's a timeline for proposed schedule.
32 weeks.
So that means they start counting, even though, now it's February, but from January they start and then the end is August. So that means the
No. It
is
can't be
like-
January. It can't be January.
I know.
We gotta sign the contract.
I know,
Oh, okay.
but they are using January as
Oh, yeah.
the example. So I mean, their design phase is about 8 months,
32 weeks.
right?
32 weeks.
So, yeah, and then also I noticed that they say if they guarantee to come to certain meetings, but if we ask them to come here for more meetings, then they charge by hourly.
Right, but the additional charges will come after the project goes forward because they're gonna be here to help and provide assistance. But those meetings, there'll be the committee members, there'll be both Tom and Nick will be at those meetings because they want, since Tom and Nick are gonna be part of doing the job, they're gonna be there at the beginning and talking to them, and we're gonna understand the job and what we can do and what we need to get someone else to do because maybe we can't do it, like trench something, you know? So Domingo said he's gonna be here. He's told us that the first thing he does when he comes to a job, and he looks around and he looks for the best Italian restaurant. So he's told us he has the best Italian restaurant, and he expects to be eating dinner here many nights. These people are very unique people. So, any other questions?
I have a question. Did you say that did they do a comparison of their initial bid versus the final cost? So you said that they come in at the price that they quoted or something?
No, they wanted more. We sent Russell back to get it for less.
Yeah. I guess my question is if they make a bid at 104, is there any way to see what, like for the other jobs that they did they actually keep to the amount that they promised at the beginning, or did it go like over 10%, over 15%? Was that something that they covered, or
There's no reason to go over. He's gonna keep right to the schedule. It's only us that can screw up the schedule.
No, in
It's
terms
all
of price,
design.
in terms of
Yeah.
cost.
That's right.
The design schedule.
It's just designing, it's not for the actual,
Right.
Construction phase.
Right, but
Right.
are there any, like, in terms of the price of the project, like, is that fixed, is there any way for that to go up to 10, 15, 20%?
I don't believe so. They gave a chart, they gave a timeline in there that's so clear.
Yeah, no, I saw that.
They expect to follow that timeline right to the end. At the end of 32 weeks, we're gonna have something to go out. That's what they're predicting, and he seems to be, the projects he's worked on are not little tiny projects.
No, I saw that.
He's a very, this is a guy that does big things. He's a phenomenal person. We're very lucky. Andy?
There's 60 hours to meet for this, so that's the only way they could overrun it. So they spent more than 60 hours.
Well,
to
yeah.
meet for it.
Well, but that would be our fault, because we're the ones that would keep them here longer unless, they have a need to be here longer, then we'll tell them why you're meeting. Okay, can we wrap this up?
Well, just a couple of things.
Yes,
First
Doug.
of all, the contract is on an hourly basis. These are just estimates in the various categories of work, but everything is on an hourly basis. Right? That's what page 30 says.
I think they have pre-designed.
No, I don't believe that's correct, though.
Under compensation for basic services, it says, we recommend billing on a time card basis towards the estimated upset amount of $104,000, including reimbursables, to be billed monthly from timesheets. And then they give hourly rates for principals, associates, and so on. So doesn't that mean it's gonna be billed hourly, and these are the estimates of the time?
Well, that's how we're going to be, we're going to be billed on an hourly basis on a monthly basis of the work they've done as they move along. I guess Larry says up to.
But it's not a flat fee contract, it's an hourly with, these are his estimates.
No, right, what we need to do is manage it where we operate within the constraints of the hours he's providing for
Right.
each section.
Okay, but I
If
mean,
we
to-
say exceed those 60 hours, then absolutely, it does turn into a
I mean,
straight out hourly.
if the meeting is called for 4 o'clock and nobody shows up at 4:30, we're paying for that time. That's not a good thing. Everybody has to be punctual, you all have to be on time, because this guy is on time. he expects to, he doesn't fool around. You tell him to show up at 12 o'clock, and he's there at 12 o'clock, 20 minutes early.
Okay, well, it was just to my truth point is it's not a set fee, it's an hourly contract, and we have to watch it as it goes on.
Right.
Let me just say two other things. One, about the three designs, or three, I think I said this to you before, but I just want to say again that I hope that people working with this guy will make sure that we get estimates at the low end, the middle end, and the high end.
Cynthia and Michael Dimon, I think, are here, and I believe we will have those. Michael was here, but Cynthia's here, and Cynthia knows that that's what has to happen, and it's gonna happen.
Okay, good. I mean, we're concerned about what the price of this is gonna be, not the design phase, but the actual.
No.
And then lastly, I just wanna remind, I'm not gonna go through this now, but I sent you this email. There were a couple of things in the contract that seemed odd, and I hope you'll.
What I will say to that is that on very large contracts such as this, based on the board approving it, I will have legal review the contract before we sign.
Right. We're not signing it tonight. You're not gonna see my pen come out to do that. Chief.
Yeah, and then I also just to follow Doug's opinion about the contract, I think, yeah, we really need to be concerned. Like if preliminary design, they said it is 13,000. So whoever is working with them with that, like when they're billing, we should know, like the pre-design is 4 weeks. So for 4 weeks, that's monthly pay. Then they shouldn't go over 13,000. And also, if they need to be go over in the contract, we should say, like by written requirement, under whatever we call ourselves, the owner approval.
Yes.
So they can
Did you
do
get
over that.
Require
Yeah,
owner
written
approval?
in the contract, it should say it's very loud, like very clear. If they think that they will be going over their budget, then they should have a written requirement to the owner, and then before they really work on the
To
over.
give us notice.
Right,
Frame it.
yeah, whatever.
I don't want you to have to sit here. Oh, it's okay. All right.
Okay, so notice to management if we're threatening
In the
the
contract.
threshold
Yeah.
of our contracted limits.
And all change orders have to be approved by the board.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
Protect
that-
it.
Sorry, but that's lawyer's job, but we just want to be sure.
We shouldn't, truthfully, there should be no change orders on this design because we're gonna be meeting with him over the course of 32 weeks. So it should be something that works very smoothly and we should be able to do this in one shot within the budget. That's what we all believe we can do.
And not miles.
I'm sorry?
And you'll have milestones.
Yes, absolutely. All right, we've exhausted this? Good. Discussion over, I'm gonna call it. All in favor? It's unanimous. Okay,
Okay, next item on my agenda is a proposed solution for excessive noise for the boiler room fan in 80 LaSalle. Just to give everyone a scenario, there is a fresh air fan that pumps air into the boiler room at 80 LaSalle. It's a very large, noisy fan. We've received numerous complaints from surrounding residents in the area. I think it was the sound seemed larger than normal simply because we removed the temporary boilers. For a time, we run the temporary boiler system. This fan didn't run for over a year. Now, all of a sudden, it started running up again, and to the residents who lived in the area, it probably sounded louder than it actually has, because now it's more noticeable.
and we did do a dB test on this. We did have a record of the sound level was high.
Yes,
Some dBs.
yes. It does have a high decibel level. So look for a solution to this. We reached out to 3 contractors. In the supplement I handed out to everyone at the board, the additional 2 proposals are included. Based on the proposals submitted, I have a recommended motion. Move that the board approves the alteration of the boiler room fresh air fan and ductwork to dampen the noise level in the amount not to exceed $15,024.75.
Is there someone moving it, please?
I'll move it.
Good, second? John, Doug, and John. John B. Maitri? Well, take it on.
So you're saying that this fan was, this is what was in place before the boiler, that
the historic fan that's been there for a
And
long
people,
time.
had people complained
From what I
Yeah.
understand, historically, people have complained about
Okay.
it
even before?
5 years ago, when it was
Okay.
running.
It's loud? Yeah.
It is not legal outside building three, yeah, or.
It's building 3 between 3 and 4.
Was that allowed 2 years ago when we?
That I don't.
That's what I was wondering.
Well, he said it's been going, the complaints go back 5 years, so that's more than a year ago.
From the, not just the engineering staff, but some of the handymen who have been around forever, says people have been complaining about that fan for a very long time.
It's a quality of your life, it's an economic issue, it's a. Andy, did I miss somebody? Dan, did I miss you? I'm sorry. No, you good? Andy?
So I'm curious, so this is $15,000, this other one is 16,600, and this other one is 14,900. Why didn't we go for the cheapest one? I'm just curious.
Absolute, the one we are recommending, the company in the board packet, Absolute Cooling and Heating, is one of our main vendors. They work on our boiler systems as well, so we feel very comfortable with working with them in the past.
It is only $100 more, so.
Right.
That's good to hear, right?
They've done plenty of work for Morningside.
Does anyone know where Roland is? We have a crisis on the camera. Oh, okay. The camera is hanging by a thread. Okay. So it's been moved and seconded, and thank you, Jeff. It's been moved and seconded, correct? We've done that? We've exhausted the conversation? Okay, let's go. All in favor? It's unanimous.
Good job.
Thank you. Exhaust fan project inspections. I just, before Russell speaks about this, last week, Neil Breen from Skyline Engineering came in to speak to Russell about the matter, and I was there when he came, and I told Russell I want to come into the meeting, and I spoke to Neil at the table, and I informed Neil that we are displeased with Skylar Engineering's performance over the last 3 months on this project. That they have not been proactive, they have not laid out a plan for us to move forward, and that it's unsatisfactory to the shareholders of this corporation that we do not have a solution at this time to the exhaust fans. I said, I will not yell at you, but I will tell you I am not going to have this conversation with you again across this table. I expect this to be acted upon. At that, Neil said, I have a lot of ideas. I said, talk to Russell, work it out, and let's move this forward. We have to get this going. Go ahead, Russell.
All right, building on what Larry's saying, just to remind everyone what we're talking about here, this is the bathroom vent in everyone's apartment that feeds into a central chase inside the walls between the apartments. On top of the roof, there's a large industrial fan that keeps up the suction and the ventilation in the apartments. Usually one fan feeds 2 ducts or 2 apartment lines. Part of the problem has been in the past where, although the fan is functioning properly, some apartments are not getting the proper CFMs. Their ventilation, the suction of air from their bathrooms isn't necessarily adequate. To figure out what we needed to do, we asked Skylar Engineering for help, and one of the first things they did do was drop a camera down the chase to see if there's a block in the vent line impeding the airflow. Part of the problem is the vents themselves were so dirty, it was very difficult to see what was going on. It doesn't look like these were ever cleaned, ever, since Morningside was built. However, what they were able to see to that point looked good, meaning their inside everyone's vent is basically a metal, what they call a scoop. This prevents the air to only go and flow in one direction, so the odors from an apartment below isn't brought up the vent shaft and pushed into an apartment. It keeps the airflow going up past all the apartments. So they did verify one thing that was very important to us: did the size of this piece of sheet metal change as it moved down the chase? They discovered it did not, which is good for a manufacturing point of view. If we need to produce more of these, we don't have to come up with 20 sizes. We have to come up with one size. The other thing is, what created the vortex, or the suction, is the chase itself is what narrowed versus the size of the scoops. So we did learn a few things. However, as Larry said, we weren't necessarily happy with their progress with giving us direction on what our next steps were. So they did finally make the recommendation, and in your reports is the report from our engineering department about the next steps of cleaning the vents and doing another camera run so we could see what's really going on down there. I actually saw the video where the best description is almost like at the bottom of the sea when there's an underwater camera and the sand kicks up. You get 5 minutes of blur where you can't even see anything. You have to just wait for all the dust to settle before you can continue moving the camera. But at this point, there's no motions on this. It was just informing the board and the shareholders of that there is progress moving forward with this project.
All right. Dwayne Reed.
Okay, Dwayne Reed.
Oh, wait, let me just tell you, the reason why we're skipping MRHS is we voted on it in December. It was done. It's 1/6 per month for 6 months. We missed paying January. It'll be January, February together, and then it'll be the last 6 paid out until June. So it was just an error. Russell,
It's my apology. I had a note.
thought we had missed something.
I had a note on my report that I needed to get it in front of the board, but I checked the minutes and it was approved in December. Andy brought them over to the board. All right, the next item is the broker that we need for Dwayne Reed. I was prepared to recommend to the board Ricardo Mendez, who is a broker and has worked with Frank here on some of the residential properties in our area. He was one of the people we consulted on when we were negotiating the NICO lease for his feedback. However, I've been informed the board has a consensus that they would like to see alternate commercial brokers and information, something that we reached out to Keith, and he explained earlier in the meeting that he will be helping us put us in touch with alternate brokers.
So you know.
One of which has already even emailed me tonight right before this meeting asking details of the address and location.
So we are going to receive assistance from CSR in acquiring a broker.
And it's a priority.
That's a priority. And then when we go to closed session, I'll discuss the rest.
There's a lot to discuss in closed session.
Absolutely. But the important thing is we're moving forward. I'm sorry, what?
We don't vote for anything.
Oh, no vote.
No vote, there's no vote.
There is no motion on the floor. Okay?
Next item on my agenda is a report to the board and shareholders about the garbage solution. One of the issues came to light that as part of one of the exhibits amended to the Met Food lease gives Met Foods the rights to that garbage area on the corner of LaSalle and Amsterdam. I had a discussion with our corporate counsel on this, and we sent Met Food a letter notifying them of our intention to utilize the space in hopes they would either.
For a second, is this really an open session?
I think we have to hold that. I think we should hold it.
Okay.
We'll hold it. You're right, Doug. We should hold it. All right, let's go to the CSR contract. This one to close. Okay. By the way, in open session, the president has a report about the garbage solution, so that will be done in open session. Go ahead.
All right, our Cooper Square contract renewal as per terms of the management contract with Cooper Square Realty. The second term has automatically renewed for 1 year as of February 1st, 2013. Lawn signage. Just so everyone's aware, we have ordered new signs for the lawn areas and the grass areas, keep off grass, as well as signage about people picking up after their pets. That also will refer to our house rules. Also, at a recommendation from a board member, additional handouts will go throughout the property to every resident who has pets and maybe some who don't. But the message is that the house rules specifically states that dogs are to be curbed off of Morningside property. So it's not enough just to walk your dog down the path and clean up after your pets if they should go in the area. It's not even allowed according to your house rules. There's many dangers and disease that can be spread by animal feces and urine in the various areas.
Yeah.
So we really are concerned, especially with the spring coming and children running around in our areas. We want to try to limit this as much as possible. let's see, capital projects section.
Right.
We have a part of the supplement handed out to the board. I have the Cobra head light removal proposals. This was something that the board voted on in December. In January, we rescinded it because Brennan had to come back to us with additional pricing. I got the verbal of what the additional pricing is going to be, so this is why it's a hand edit cross out of what we're approving this evening.
All right, now there's one thing that's missing in the motion before you make it. This is a change order. This is going to be a change order with no additional days made. So can we make the motion, change order number, leave that number blank, and read the rest of the motion and capital expense, and then put the number in later, once we get it from, who do we get it from? Cuts of George or from,
Yeah.
tomorrow, you'll have it tomorrow morning, right? Tomorrow's the local
No,
eleven.
no meeting
No
tomorrow.
meeting tomorrow, okay.
But yeah, at some point it will be turned, after the board approves it here, it does turn into an actual change order. That comes across and that's signed at a later date.
But I wanna put the words in change order number and put a number in there when we actually publish this to the shareholders, because it shouldn't go just as a regular motion. It would put this motion outside of local 11. What we wanna do is put it inside local law 11. You know what I'm saying?
Because of the coverage.
Because of the cover, exactly. Thank you, Marjorie. That's exactly
I
right.
might be able to do that.
And the escrow.
Well, it's
I
everything,
agree
right?
with wording.
All we have to do is say change order, move that change order number blank, the board approves, change order number blank, the removal of Cobra head lights, patching and rebricking of the removal area for a total cost of $25,350 for all buildings. This is a capital expense.
With no additional days.
No additional days, right. Is that okay? Do we agree with that? And we'll make it come out right, and you'll have a number for her, and
Yes.
you'll communicate with her, correct? Yeah, Chief, go ahead.
So we moved this motion already, right?
No.
It has to be moved now, because it's gotta be moved. We had voted on it before, but it was below the escrow line. We wanna put it back up in the local law 11, so it's using the escrow money. So it was withdrawn at the last meeting, and now we're putting it back on, but we're putting it up into local law 11. Is that okay? All right. Alfred, is there a second? You're moving it? Good. Second? Thank you, Doug. So, Ed, do you want to read that so it makes sense to everybody?
Okay. Move that the Board of Directors approves local law 11, change order number blank, the removal of Cobra lights, patching and rebricking of the removal area for a total cost of $25,350 for all buildings with no additional days added to the contract. This is a capital expense.
Okay? Any discussion about this? Yes, Chief?
The question, I know they can remove the Cobra lights, but my question is one, because like building one, after we finish, like all the scaffolding is done, if we remove the Cobra light, and then we don't have the new lights ready yet, so what
We have other, but our guys are prepared to put lights in place, temporary lights in place, as they did along the wall of the garage.
Right.
We did that.
Oh.
So they're prepared to do things, but, until they come down. And don't forget, Brenda's already taken them down. This is just a formality, because they gotta come back for building one, am I correct, right?
I stood down.
Yeah, they're taking them down, but they just gotta come, building one was the holdup, and the fact we wanted to make it a change order to get all the coverage, okay? Can we go to a vote? Okay, all in favor? It's unanimous. Okay.
Two just general announcements as they relate to the local law project. Building 2, the projected time of the sidewalk ridge removal is currently the end of March 2013.
Would you like to tell everybody why it's delayed from February to the end of March?
Right, we keep the moving target dates. Mostly has to do with the fact of inclement weather and being too cold over the last month. So as Brenda always says, and as our schedules always dictate, as per weather conditions permitting. So last month I think reported it was February. Everything is pushed back a month because we really lost a lot of work in February. Also in building 6's projected time of removal is also pushed back now to the end of May of 2013,
For the same reason.
for the same reasons, yes.
Where are we?
But I just have a
The bottom
question.
is 3.
All right.
She has a-
I'm sorry, Chief,
Yeah,
pardon me.
this project, like, the subject, I just want to see, like, when grant is ready. So I just want to know, also the shareholder will know, whether we still have to wait for the city approval. Yeah,
Absolutely.
so that's gonna
Yeah,
take
yeah,
time.
yeah.
So I think you should make that somehow to let shareholder know in a flash report or something. Because people will say, oh, they thought it's Brent's fault.
And subject to,
Right.
subject to,
We'll take care of it. It'll be taken care of in
Yeah,
that time.
okay, thanks.
Skip page 4. Turn over to page 5, please.
Okay, one of the new initiatives we put into place was a customer service satisfaction report. Over the last month, we had 132 resident work orders. These do not include building-related work orders for our handyman. We did reach out to every shareholder. Shareholders did respond in several fashions. We did receive 2 people who were unsatisfied with our services. One had to do with a toilet handle, which was a simple replacement. The handyman went back and replaced the toilet handle. And another had to do with the replacement of a window pane that at first the shareholder was unsatisfied. But when questioned, he said he withdrew his unsatisfaction and everything was fine. So that gives us an indication of where we are with our residents for, this I believe goes up to the end of last week. I don't think it includes this week moving forward. Next item is the extermination contract renewal. Attached to the board package was a bid matrix of the multiple companies we looked into. One of the things we found working with Western is our current service provider. We're gonna recommend we renew with Western for another year. However, with a caveat, we wanna remove the onus of dealing with bed bugs from Western. We were not happy with their responsiveness to our needs when we did have problems with some of our shareholders. And we have since looked into other companies that are now providing that service. However,
Unique pest control.
unique pest control. However, overall, for regular pest rodent control and the normal service, we've been overall happy with Western. Our feedback from residents and even the staff has generally been good. So to that end, I'd like to make a recommended motion, move that the board approves the renewal of the Western Pest Services contract for the period of 1 year for the treatment of residential and exterior pest control services for a monthly rate not to exceed $4,679.
Is there someone moving that motion? John moves it? Someone seconding? Alfred seconds? Okay, I want to say this. Since the board decided to direct management to be aggressive, when a complaint is made about bed bugs, in 24 hours, there was a man in that apartment, an insect guy. Entomologist, that's the guy I wanted. I lost that word somewhere in the back of my head, but 24 hours, there's a man there. He does a visual inspection. If he finds a bed bug, the next step is the dog. The dog then goes to the apartment. And then after that, they lay out the plan of treatment. So we are very intensively pursuing this. And today, Sabrina, where did you spend your day, Sabrina? What building?
Building more.
Don't mention apartments, but how many sets of apartments did you handle? Don't tell them what floors though.
No, just one.
Just one apartment? And that will cause us to do what? Because
A
there
lot
was
of work because we found bed bugs.
And how do we treat it if there's bed bugs in one apartment? Would you like to tell everybody, please?
Sure. What we do is we do preventive maintenance to the apartment above, below, and adjacent.
Because how do bed bugs travel?
There's a seminar on it tomorrow.
I know, but
Exactly.
just so it's in the record now. And how do bed bugs travel? Across the hall?
No, adjacent. Adjacent. They go along the walls or upward.
Right.
They don't go diagonal
Or
or
down.
across.
They don't make the
No,
long trip
no,
across
no.
the hall.
You don't go down?
They go up, down, left, right.
They don't cross hallways.
down, left, right.
All right,
No.
Professor.
Wait,
Do we have anything
I
more?
diagonal.
Huh?
Do we have anything more, Professor? We're gonna move on.
No, next people want to know that. They have asked us that question. I wasn't being facetious in getting that information in front of the community.
Larry, just so you know also, there is, and I could give you information for Russell, we negotiated a contract with the bedbug doctor. I don't know if they've ever done work here.
No, I don't believe so.
And what
He's
they-
advertised.
No, but what you can do is you can actually get a service contract where you pay per apartment, and you then have the insurance knowing that you are covered anytime there are bed bugs in the building. And it's not an exorbitant rate. Well, the number of units you have, it's gonna be higher.
Well, wait a minute, when you say you get insurance.
Not insurance, it's like insurance.
Right, but here's the thing. When we treat the bed bugs, we treat them above, below, left, and right. Does that insurance, that plan give us the same kind of coverage that we're paying for?
Anytime that you think there's bed bugs in an apartment, they will come and go check that apartment.
With the dog?
They don't, there are different theories about the dog.
Exactly.
Some believe it's great, others say it's not. Like, for example, this company I spoke to, they do the extermination for Yankee Stadium, they do for a lot of large clients residential, and they believe it's better to have an individual come in and actually inspect and view, and there are certain locations that you're always going to be looking at for bed bugs. It's a theory, you know, and it said some people think the dog is great for show. You bring the dog in, the dog barks and does whatever it's going to do, whatever movement. It's a theory, but one of the things we can have, and I don't know if you have it, is get the information, maybe something that's worth considering. I have a few buildings that have it. It's worked well for them. I'm not endorsing them. I'm just talking about previous experience was positive.
It is one of the companies we're considering for our bed bug treatment.
Now, everyone should know, and every shareholder should remember, that no shareholder picks up the cost of this bed bug treatment. This is done by the corporation out of your maintenance. And we're not, and it's not cheap anymore. We're spending this money to make sure we wipe them out when we go in. We are bed bug killers. We don't do as well with rats, but we are tremendous on bed bugs.
They keep coming back.
Huh?
They keep coming back.
No, they keep coming back to other apartments, never the same place. All right, so the motion's before us. Any other discussion on it? No? We're ready to vote? All in favor? It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay, we have just finished the management report, open session. We now go to Andrew Ackerman, who will give us the treasurer's report.
Thank you. So I have 3 items, 2 very quick ones. First is the president wrote a memo giving me credit for finding a mistake in 1098. The credit goes to Joanna Kapner, so I get credit for listening to Joanna Kapner, who said, check this number when it comes. I checked it, I multiplied 2 numbers, compared it to the 3rd number.
You didn't tell me that when I give you the
didn't
credit.
ask me for it.
Okay. All right, from now on I'll check.
So, then, also a very minor note, I stumbled across the fact that I've been not fulfilling my responsibilities under our bylaws as the chair of a board committee, and that I have not been, I have not been promptly reporting to the board the change of membership of my committee. So, I apologize for that. And so, the members that have been, it's too late for it to be prompt, but the members that are withdrawn from the Finance Committee are Marlo Dugoulet, Mark Vaughan, Gerald Tenenbaum, and David Weaver. They were on the original list, and they are no longer on the committee. So finally, the financial statements for January. We looked at them. We have negative $57,000 income variance. And so that's a bad thing. That's less income than budgeted. We have a negative about $150,000 expense variance. That's also a bad thing, negative variance. We spent more than is budgeted. So we have a negative roughly $200,000 net variance at this point after 1 month. Management says that the income variance is mostly due to Dwayne Reed as well. We're not collecting any rent to that space and other late commercial rents. As far as expenses, there was a negative variance in energy of, we have a negative variance in energy expenses, and the manager estimated that there are $180,000, which was for November and December gas bills. So we're paying for gas we used last year in January. And so those who pay attention to this, and I wouldn't be surprised if there are a few of you, that we were at the end of January, sorry, at the end of December, in the January statement, the report I gave, talking about the December financials, we look like we were $400,000 or so in surplus. And so there goes about 200,000 of that to fuel, which in fact Russell had anticipated. And Russell also pointed out that there's another reduction relative to the numbers we were looking at, because there's a $250,000 income associated with MRHS in that apartment. They gave us $250,000. That will be spread out over 30 years, so that will not be $250,000 into 1 year. So this big surplus we had last year, just eyeballing it at this point, looks to have vanished already. But we're not in deficit. And the annual audit from Mindy Eisenberg Stark will work all the details out and not look at it by squinting, but to really do the math. So along the lines of, this is a constant problem on the Finance Committee, which is where are we really? Management suggested the idea of doing our monthly financial reports on an accrual rather than a cash basis. And so that would mean you would try to take into account when things were, you would try to allocate the expenses and the payments to the particular month where the expenses were associated with. The committee agreed that was going to be too difficult. And instead, the idea was put forth that we could ask the auditor for, rather than doing twice-a-year audits, which we're getting now, we could have quarterly audits. The committee liked that idea. We didn't take any votes or anything. What we did is we asked management to contact our auditor and inquire about how much it would cost for quarterly audits. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you. It's now my report. But before I do that, I would just like Russell to notify Mindy Eisenberg Stark that she needs to produce the audited report for 2012 by Friday, April 12th, to be distributed to the Finance Committee on April 15th, so that it is ready for the board on April 23rd. Am I correct? The 23rd is the board meeting, I believe? Yes. So it has to be here. We don't want the mistake to happen as it did in the fall with the Jewish holiday. We're telling her up front, we need it on Friday, April 12th, here in this office, so it can be copied and sent to the Finance Committee, so that meeting on Monday, April 15th, will be the review of the draft report of the auditor, which will then, any changes that have to be made will be made over that time frame, and then we'll come to the board with those changes made, okay? So this way we won't be screwed up with a calendar that doesn't work. First thing I have to do as the president is tell you what's happened to the committees. The Bylaw Advisory Committee, which is a committee of the board, has now elected a chair, and the chair is Yvonne Martin Cozzula. I have so much trouble with that name. I look at it and I keep saying I know how to say it. Cozzula. Huh? Yeah, but for some reason this name doesn't ring with me. Okay, the Family Activities Committee, Anneka Norgren is off. The Finance Committee, Marlo Duboulay is off, Mark Fogan is off, Gerald Tenenbaum is off, David Weaver is off. The Fitness Center Committee had no changes according to this. The Grounds Committee, Judith Solomon is on, she's new. The Long Range Planning Committee, Ann Friedland and Bob Kamatsu are off. Added to the committee was John Buscarello and David Weaver. And the Systems and Structures Committee, Nadia El-Rakhsi is off. So the new committees of the board directory will be published you'll get the final copy. I don't think you need the cross outs for it, but she'll give it to you. Now, sanitation solution. Thanks to Joan Levine, last week she gave me the name, the telephone number of the office, his private telephone number, and his email. And I communicated with this gentleman, who happens to be David Hurd Director Office of Recycling and Outreach and Education, Grow, New York City. He is on jury duty, otherwise I would have had something to report to you tonight, more than this. But he and I have communicated by email. He hopes to be here this week, he may wind up to be here next week, it depends on how long the case is gonna go. I think he's in Brooklyn.
Can you just clarify, this isn't about the big garbage?
No, this
about
is
the food scraps,
composting.
right?
Yeah.
Food scraps in our
I'm gonna-
facilities.
I'm
You
getting
gotta get contact.
I'm getting it, I'm getting it. So, Mr. Hurd called me back as soon as he received my email, actually, he wrote me back as soon as he read my email, which was that we are interested in composting, and we want to know what we have to do. So, Mr. Hurd said that the captain of sanitation has no authority over this, because he speaks to the borough commander. Now, this project is a 5-day-a-week school day project, which gets picked up 4 o'clock in the afternoon, only on school days. And we're gonna have to look at the partner agreement that they want us to sign to see what this partner agreement says, and we have a question for him, like summertime. There's a time frame there where there's no school. What does that mean to picking up food scraps? And he said that the DSNY has a few other requests before they begin service. So, as soon as Mr. Hurd gets out of the court, he's gonna contact me, he's gonna come up here, we're gonna sit down, have a meeting with Russell, and we're gonna figure out what we have to do. And hopefully I'll be able to report to the board on composting, and that we'll be moving forward, assuming there's nothing in the partner agreement or DSNY requests that might indicate that we will have a problem. So, I think this is good news.
You gonna have anybody at that meeting who knows about
Yeah.
compost?
Joan or Andrea.
I do composting.
Or skipping.
I'm a composter. I've been composting for 18
Somebody like
years.
Skip or something like that?
Well, if he can come during the day, sure.
That might be-
But I don't have a date.
Yeah.
So until they have a date.
I'm just saying, to
Yeah.
consider it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure. It's no problem. But the point is, we have to get him out of court to get here. So when he does that. And now, you should know that when we closed our loan, we put our money in a bank recommended by what the heck was the name of this company? FIC? Your FI? Financial Risk.
FFC.
What?
FFC.
FFC, who is a company that has been good to us in terms of they found us a bank where we could put the money and we could have insurance. They forgot to tell us one thing, that when you put the money in the bank, the insurance is not given to you by the bank for free. The insurance is a cost to us. Now, what's interesting about this is that they did not start charging interest until August of this past year, 2012. So we paid this insurance fee, not interest, but insurance fee, in August, September, October, November, December, January, for a total of $8,508. So we didn't pay anything before August 2012, and we have stopped paying them as of this date, because FFC has taken over the responsibility of paying the insurance. So this is good, because that's the savings, but you have to know that we did pay $8,508 out of our reserve fund for this insurance for 6 months. And I thought that the shareholders should know that. So that is the President's report, and we are now up to...
Can I just comment on that last item?
Sure, please, Andy.
You say it's good, but it's good for a bad reason, because our interest rate has gone down. At first it was 0.6, and we were all excited, oh boy, a 0.6% annual. Now we're 0.2, and if they were continuing to charge us for the insurance, we would have less cash at the end of every month than we had at the beginning of the month. So we're earning 0.2% now, rather than minus 0.05%.
I understand. I mean,
I'm
the
just
whole
saying,
one. I got a note from my bank. I can't even find out what the interest is, because it's not a number I recognize. It's not a number that means anything. Gee, go ahead.
Yeah, just a question. You said from now, like right now, we are not paying the insurance. My question is, are we going to pay in the future, or?
They're paying it. They wrote us an email and told us they're paying it.
Yeah, but the point is, at one point they did insure,
Right,
and they do
yeah,
change,
I didn't
then
know.
maybe they'll change their
Well-
minds again.
Well, if they do, we'll know and we'll tell you. But right now, he said, we are picking it up as a benefit to you. We're paying the fees to all of our clients that have money in the United States Bank.
Right, he didn't say until interest rates go up to,
Yeah.
He didn't say that.
Yeah, that's.
But I assume if interest rates did go up, which in my future, I don't see that happening, but maybe in somebody else's they do, that would be a great thing because it would be money in my pocket as well as money in the corporation's pocket. Go ahead.
Yes, and you should be notified of changes, you know, in this account. It's through US Bank, it's the only bank that we're able to get excess deposit insurance with. And then we have a few other banks, you probably are getting the benefits of, you know, the maximum of 250,000 that you can have in there. It's probably 3 other banks, First Trust, and the other ones. But you'll be notified as well.
We'd like that a lot.
Say that again, Andy?
We would like that to be notified, because
Yes.
not being notified the first time is a little unsettling.
Right.
I think when whenever you do the report to shareholders, you should say that the insurance, even though we are not paying now, but we paid from last August to whatever, December. And then the insurance is the insurance for the over
Over $250,000.
So they
It's for
know
all money.
why. Otherwise, they will say, why we pay the insurance?
Well, we're paying, there's a lot of money in that
Right.
bank. But it's for money over $250,000. We're paying the insurance on that balance. Okay, would Detta all please come to the table? Yeah, can I have that email back?
I'll get back to you.
No, sure. And it just wraps it up real quick.
Now you see it? No, you don't.
Are we okay? Detta, anytime you're ready, you just make sure your microphone is on. Could you press that? There's a button, you know how it works. I think you've seen these before.
Okay.
Is it on, screen?
It's no color. Screen now.
Good, thank you. Because you have a very light, sweet voice, and it's got to be.
Okay, so you have a report from me. So the first item is the indoor bike storage, and we want to be able to remove the bikes in the bike storage room that aren't paid for, or we want to bill for those bikes, and then we want to assign all the current vacant spots plus all the spots that will be vacant once those bikes are removed. So the amenities committee thought a good way to do that was to send out a letter to all shareholders asking them to go down to the bike room and identify their bikes, and you have the attached letter, like, just, it's a proposed
Would you like to
sample letter.
Would you like to read the motion, because it doesn't
Okay.
need a second?
Move.
Oh, no, it has to be moved by the board. It has to be moved by the board. Doesn't be second.
So I should read it?
Yes, please.
Moved, a notice be sent out to all residents under their doors regarding the bike storage rooms with the goal of identifying all unpaid bikes and proceeding to either bill for those or remove them within a month.
I'll move it.
Good. It's moved. Any discussion? You like the letter? No comments about the letter that's attached?
It's
You're
a
okay?
sample, I mean, management is free to change
Thank
some of
you.
the wording.
Right. But, I mean, is there any input anybody else have on this?
Well, we debated this for some time, whether, and so we went for the most conservative thing, because if we're gonna be removing people's property, we wanna give them every possible chance of knowing about it before
Right.
it happens. Rather
Absolutely.
than surprising them with that, so that was the decision the committee made.
All right? Okay, we're gonna vote. All in favor? It's unanimous. Okay. Your next motion.
Can I just, I want to hand out something to the board.
Sure. What is it?
The inventory, myself and another volunteer from the amenities committee did an inventory of the bike rooms. So this shows I mean, it actually shows some good results. In buildings 3 and 5, we had no unpaid bikes, and in building 4, we have 3 unpaid, and in building 6, we have 25 unpaid. So we
25.
in that one building. So we have, and altogether we're going to be able to. We have 50 vacant spots now, and altogether we're going to have 78 spots that can be assigned once the unpaid bikes are removed.
That's great. Okay.
Take one and pass it around.
Not you, Frank. Everybody else. Okay. Go ahead, Dana.
Okay, so the next one, you have a pretty long report from me. We have our Thurgood Marshall room and our recreation rooms. The policy in place was a $25 per use rental. This was not being applied evenly. It's unclear about who was giving waivers. Current management has determined that that's not the right way to proceed. And the Amenities Committee agrees there should be one policy and it should be open and known about and applied to everyone. But there were some classes here that were going to be hit, that we're going to struggle to pay the new rates. So the Amenities Committee did 2 things. One, we clarified who should pay and who shouldn't.
And who was that, Dana? Please tell us.
Okay. Free use for a Thurgood Marshall or recreation room. Board of Directors.
Thank God.
MGCA. Committees of the board, committees of MGCA, other committees, building organizations, other shareholder organizations that have to do in some way with governance or quality of life at Morningside Gardens. Morningside Players, MRHS. Temporarily, the Children's Learning Center until they have their playground back. And classes that are offered for free. We don't currently have any, but this was put in as a, if this was offered, and this would be classes offered for free where the teacher can't even collect a donation. It would have to be free to the community. And I forgot to mention one other thing. Temporarily, also the art group is going to use the recreation room for free while the workshop is under construction.
Good.
Then those who pay the regular rental price would be any resident or renting for any private use, and all other uses that don't fit either the free category or the discounted category. Those that would get the newly created discounted category.
What your motion will create.
Yeah, if the board endorses it, would be qualifying classes. These would be classes that meet here on a regular basis, that are open to the Morningside community residents, and they would have to pay for all their monthly sessions at the beginning of each month.
So when you say pay discounted class rate, the $10 would be rolled into the fees that they would be collecting, and that $10 would come to us for an hour. But they would pay that immediately to the corporation for the hour. Every time they meet for a semester, it's every hour.
Yeah, we stuck with the hourly rate because we thought of trying to do a monthly rate or a semester rate, and it's like each class has their own time schedule. So it just seemed best just to keep the hourly. I mean,
The breakup,
well,
an hour, 2 hours, 8 hours. I got it.
to keep the per use fee in place and just have a discounted per
Right.
use. And yes, our per use fees, we have the up to 1 hour, up to 2 hours, up to 4, and up to 8 hours.
So if it's a class that meets 12 times over a semester, that class would automatically be paying $120 just for a room fee. Am I correct?
For
Well,
1 hour.
For 1 hour. For 1 hour.
If it's, yeah, I mean, they would be, right, they would be paying, if it's a 1 hour class, they would pay the $10. If it's up to 2 hours, they would pay the $15 per use.
Right.
They would,
But it'd be the number of times they meet. That's would be the key. Okay.
that's the way they could figure it out for themselves if
Okay.
that's
So
gonna
what's
help
the
them.
motion, Dana?
And this, I mean, this
Oh.
does represent 67 to 80% off, so it's, we are trying to help them out. The motion, oh, and I guess okay, I'm going to read it and then I'm going to offer one small suggestion. Moved, a discounted room rental fee for the Thurgood Marshall Room and Recreation Room will begin in March 2013 of $10 for up to 1 hour, $15 for up to 2 hours, and $25 for up to 8 hours for qualifying classes. To qualify, a class must meet at least twice per month, must be open to Morningside Gardens residents, must be posted clearly in all 6 buildings, and must pay for all room uses in full at the beginning of each month.
Is there a mover? Okay, now, could I ask just one question? Why do we say they have to meet at least twice per month? Why couldn't it be once per month for 6 months? Is there a reason why we made it twice?
It could be once per month. We were just trying to, it's a very steeply discounted rate, and we were, the idea was that this is a frequent user rate. And so
It's like frequent flyers.
we are basically rewarding our frequent users with a big discount. So that was, but that is sort of random. We could say once per month. I was thinking maybe to change it to 2 hours per month because there is an art group and it's a 4-hour class, but I'm not sure that they meet twice per month. I couldn't get confirmation.
Other than the art group?
It's yes. Other than the art group, there is a children's art class.
So, is your recommendation to change it from twice per month to 2 hours per month?
Yes.
Can we accept that as it is and then discuss it that way? Is that all right with everybody? It's 2 hours per month. It's been moved. So, Chi.
The question is that, so you have up to 1 hour, up to 2 hours. And then 25 for up to 8 hours. So that means up to 4 hours or so, 25?
That rate was created specifically because there is one children's art group that's a 4-hour class, but they take 2 hours to set up and 2 hours to take down. So they need the room for 8 hours. So
That's the reason for 8 hours.
So we didn't think there's going to be high usage really of either the 4 or 8 hour rate. So we just made it one rate for basically for both. For anything over 2 hours pays that other rate, and up to 8 hours.
Andy?
We were quite soft-hearted, I would say.
Yes.
So I just want to say that we talked about this again. The purpose of these fees, and there was a lot of complaints about the fact that before we had these new discount fees, people complaining. So the fees are really small change as far as our operating budget goes. This is not a major income stream. The reason is if you don't have fees, the people will camp on, they will reserve and reserve and reserve, and they won't show up. And so it's a way to make people have to, you have to spend something if you want to reserve the room. So that's really the point of the fees.
Thank you, Andy. Anyone else? Shall we move this?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you, Detta. Jerry Wahlberg, would you please come to the front? So, okay, thank you. What do you want to just?
Yeah, I mean that letter is just a suggestion.
Yeah, make a suggestion. Send it to Russell. It's fine. Can Jerry have that seat now? Thank you, Detta. Are these your keys? Oh, that's okay. Thank you. Okay, Jerry, this is the House rules.
Yes, it is. The policy and House Rules Committee.
I'm sorry, Policy and House Rules Committee.
And so first I'd like to say, I can talk. And so if I get off on a tangent, I would like Maitri to give me a cosign.
Maitri.
I would like Maitri to give me a cosign.
Pull that mic a little closer to you.
It's just it's a bad trigonometry joke. Anyway, so I think you all got this in your packet?
Yes.
Okay, so it was to talk about the fees that were approved at the December meeting. So we, the committee, just came up with a fee schedule as requested by the treasurer at that meeting. And we really didn't have much to work with. So the language here, fee was because we changed it from a fine to a fee in that motion. And the reason for first fee as opposed to, say, first violation was because it was specifically given the public safety was specifically given the leeway to not give a ticket for that they could give a verbal warning once or twice or three, whatever, at their discretion. So if we said violation, it would imply that they have to do it. And then they also would have the discretion of charging the same fee for a second time if they wanted to. So that's why it says repeat fee and subsequent fee. That's really it on that. The numbering here is a number of your discussion of it. It would go underneath the fee that was, or the rule that was approved before, and that will be incorporated at the appropriate place in the rules.
Okay, so this is approved by the committee, correct?
The committee
All right,
does
so
approve
the
this.
motion would be move that the board approve the administrative fee schedule. First fee $25, repeat fee $50, subsequent fees $100. Do I capture it?
Yeah.
Okay. And this will be added to the new House rule titled administrative fees. That's the additional piece on the motion, okay? Are we all good on that? And now, that's the motion that wasn't written, but that's what it was meant to be. So is there a mover of the motion? No,
He's not a board member.
He's not a board member. We need somebody to move the motion like we did with Deb. Anybody? Oh, Dan. Okay, good. Thank you. Now we can discuss it. Anybody? Yes, Maitri.
So what are examples of violations of?
We don't have any.
But, I mean, when you had your discussion, like what kinds of things did you have in mind?
Well, I mean, basically any violation of a house rule would be able to be ticketed under this. So anything that's in the house rules, which we have all agreed that just by living here, that we would follow the rules, anything. So the things that I think were really being looked at and were asked, the reason I think we were asking this was because there was dog poop all over. And that was one thing that would give public safety the ability to say, no, we actually, when we tell you you need to do this, you actually do need to do it, because there were people saying, we're not going to, you don't have an enforcement mechanism. But it could be anything.
It could be walking on the grass. There's a lot of home shareholders that are walking their dogs at night on the lower upper lawn. I don't know if you've noticed that, but I have. I mean, they just come out when it's dark and they walk their dogs on the grass, which we don't want.
And so I'm just trying to think of how, so the security guards would basically be, like, they would just be writing up, it would be up to them to kind of, to know the rules, basically to be trained on the rules, to know what they are.
Sure.
And then to be able to identify like a shareholder and say that this is the person who lives over here, and kind of come up with this.
Right. The actual enforcement of it would be something that would be taken care of by public safety. In the sense of the actual administration of how you do it, if you're going to keep a list of, have you given a verbal warning, have you given a ticket, is this a third ticket or whatever, they would take care of the administration of that, how they would want to do that.
I guess my concern is, how do we prevent this from becoming like a police state? I mean, I think there's, there's a fine line, there's a spectrum of like, all right, there's certain things that we want to make sure that, aren't being abused, but at the other hand, we don't want to create this environment of fear or distrust or, just like, oh my God, I did that, and, what kind of, fine are we going to get?
Yeah. Well, I think, certainly one thing is written into the previous motion that is now in the rule is that there's discretion there and warnings would be given first. So I don't think this should in any way be looked at as an income generating kind of thing. This would be more to say, yes, there is a way to enforce those rules. I surely do not think that the intention of this is to become a police state and have, security out there running after people with tickets. I think there probably are people who are violating the rules and know that they're violating the rules. You know, if you let your dog go out and poop and you don't clean up after it, I think you know that's probably wrong. But there may be other people that are doing other things that are against rules that don't know it. So the first thing would be a gentle reminder for people who, you know, are saying presently to some of the public safety people, you don't have a mechanism to enforce that, I'm going to do what I want. Those are people who probably will get a warning and probably will get a ticket, and it probably will escalate if they continue that.
Andy? No. Doug? No?
Well, I guess I'd just like to say, I guess there's always a possibility of overzealousness, but I think that if this system is enacted, that we'll be seeing reports on it in our monthly security report.
Absolutely.
I think we'll have a chance to talk to Captain Montalvo as it goes along and see what's really happening and make sure that there's not some abuse or craziness in the way of administration. But I'd also like to say, I think we definitely need this. I mean, I just know there's, for example, in front of our building, there's somebody who regularly throws food out on the lawn for the squirrels. You know, I mean,
And that's wrong.
I got down on my knees and begged her one day to stop, but she said no. It's so and so is violating such and such a rule, and I can do this, and I don't care what you say. We have to have a way to enforce that.
Yeah, I just think, I don't know, I may have missed this, but before we started, we just need to do a public education.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
To alert all the shareholders about what's going on, and I would be concerned about the opposite. A lot of shareholders, some shareholders telling security, screw you. I don't care, you know, I'll tear up the ticket.
Right, but they'll get a copy of it.
It's on their bill.
It'll be on their bill, it's going on their bill.
Oh,
It would get
Yeah,
to the
so that we're clear, I believe, if I understand what's gonna happen here, once we pass this, Russell and Vincent will have a discussion. They'll have a clear understanding of what it is we're going to do, what the time frame is for, you know, to make sure everybody understands the rules. And Vincent, who is a very fine leader of our public safety department, will educate his staff in carrying out our policy in a way that is not a police state, that is not oppressive, that is just to get this place. We're a community, we have to live together. We have to, you know, you can't just do whatever you want sometimes. You can't throw food down for the squirrel. Dan?
I mean, security, I would imagine, is just one.
Public safety.
Public safety is just one of the enforcers here. I mean, there's illegal alterations, leaving stuff in
That's
the
a house rule.
hallway, there's caught by maintenance, I mean, there's other of our staff that will find stuff, and I guess need to be alerted to the post.
By the way, well, speaking about alterations, I assume there won't be a first warning on alterations. I assume if you start altering an apartment without getting approval, you're gonna get fined, because it's clear everywhere that I don't think there's a person in this place that does not know you have to get the paper filled out and approved.
There's actually a bit in the second part here to that also, so I
Okay,
don't know if you
we'll
want to
get
go
to
down
that.
first. and-
Well, let's get the first
But
part out of
I
the
think
way.
you're absolutely right.
She,
Yeah,
did you-
there are other people that would notice violations who, but they, you know, like management I don't think would be ticketing, nor do I think, you know, the staff who's going around the building would be. Public safety would be the ones who would actually issue a ticket or a warning. So they might be alerted by maintenance staff that, you know, there's 6 bicycles and 8 skateboards outside of X apartment, and then security or public safety would probably say, could you move the skateboards at least? And then, you know, and then go from there.
Chief?
Yeah, my question is, I know we need this to be in the house rules so people know and that there is a consequence if they don't follow the house rules. But I agree with John who mentioned that. My question is, we didn't talk about when this rules will be starting, we didn't have in effect. I think we need to give give all shareholders some time. Maybe we have a town hall meeting, because even after your letter to shareholders regarding the board approved a motion like start to charge these fees, some shareholders already asked me, say what kind of fees, how much is going to be? And then they also concerned that security officers probably will do the policing, and then which,
Public safety.
yes, yeah, public safety department will do. And then they say also probably it's hard for the public safety officers to work because they really, our public safety really wants to be working together with shareholders. So I know the concerns, but if we put this one, I just want to give a longer time for people.
So let's do it this way. The first one deals with it, the second one deals with it, and then let's pass a board motion that says when it should start.
Okay.
Is that okay?
That's good.
So let's deal with the first one. I'm sorry, Yvonne?
No, I just don't know if you can say exactly when it's going to start, because there are a lot of house rules and a lot of prohibitions, and I think you need to define maybe public safety, and Russell want to define which house rules should have these fees, not fines. I mean, there are some things where you just want to warn people, and maybe it shouldn't always be done directly by a security officer, but rather a letter, public safety, excuse me, public safety, but rather maybe a letter coming from management. For example, Dan mentioned items in the hallway, furniture. I mean, that happens to be a violation of city ordinance. So it is something that you do want people to remove their things. You want to tell them there is this house rule, but in addition, there's the ordinance, and you need to remove these things within a certain amount of time. But I think even before you decide on a date, you've got to have some type of meeting or informational meeting
Right.
for people.
But-
And you have to decide what you're going to find.
But here's the
what you're gonna
thing.
pay for.
We can say that this starts immediately. We shouldn't be discussing this motion, but let's say this. We could say it starts immediately, but immediately meaning that warnings for house rules that are being broken are given out for the next 120 days. So if people have things in the hallway, we're sending them notices that you're violating a house rule so-and-so. If you do not remove it in a timely fashion, whatever that is, it can come from management to them. And then public safety goes up and looks. But we can institute this immediately. We can say, this is now, we're starting it immediately, and we're going to allow a 120-day period for education.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And that would work.
That's good.
All right?
Yeah.
And there'll be plenty of time to give people warning, and no ticket, no fee would be charged unless it was an illegal renovation. That would be, it's the other types, the things that, we don't have to worry about. We want the quality of life issues, okay? Is that okay? So we'll get to that, but let's deal with this resolution first. Ed, would you read it, please?
That the board approves the administrative fee schedule as follows. First fee $25, repeat fee $50, subsequent fees $100. This will be added to the House rules as a new section entitled Administrative Fees.
Okay?
Get it?
No,
It'll
not
be added to the section.
added to the section called administrative fees. Added to the section, right. Okay? Are we good? Can we vote this? Okay, all in favor? All right, it's almost unanimous. Go ahead. Maitri opposes. All right?
Supposed to leave her stuff in the hall.
No, I know. She's probably got, big trunks for it.
bedroom's fine.
All right,
Okay.
go ahead.
The second area there was, as we discussed it in committee, we realized that there were some other things that might be, that might take some precedence over some of the smaller, maybe quality of life issues. So we wanted to give both management and the board a little bit of leeway for things that could be considered safety violations, things where people might have a financial interest in it. I know that there is a section in the rules about illegal sublets and that can be charged, but we just thought some more language there to say if somebody, basically if they're going to make $1,000 a month on an illegal sublet, a $100 ticket might just be a cost of doing business. So this would give some more leeway to the board and to the management. So the way that it was written, and there is one suggested change that I might make. Other fees may be charged to shareholders at the discretion of the board and/or management for violations that are deemed to be a safety threat, are believed to create a financial incentive for continuing a violation, example, illegal sublet or renovation, or are repeatedly or continually committed by a shareholder or resident.
What, is there a change? Well, no, wait, he wanted to do
A
something.
little bit of the change that I might have thought, because I didn't really think of it until afterwards, is that it could say for violations,
Where would you put this?
included but not limited to, management, for violations including but not limited to those that are deemed to be a safety threat. So in case something else came up, there's language there that would cover it, because if you tried to do something later and it wasn't deemed to be a safety threat, a financial incentive, or continue or repeated, you couldn't actually do it.
I think, and I would make a recommendation, that we should remove the word management.
Sure.
Because it should be in complete board discretion as to what that fine would be, not management making that decision.
Okay.
Because that's a board vote. Does anyone disagree with that? So we're striking and/or management? It'll just be board, discretion of the board for, and then go on, right? Are we good? Everyone see that? Okay, so is there, I need someone to move it. Andy?
Thank you, Andy.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that. Now, discussion. No discussion? Oh, wait, Maitri?
So are we saying then we would, how would we, this one actually I agree with, but,
Thank you.
But in terms of the fees, like, is it something that we would, then the board would come back and discuss, and we would set fees, it wouldn't just be like case by case, right? So it wouldn't.
It would be case by case.
You would.
Yes, because
Should we do the same
depending on what management says this person has done, and what attempts management has made to try to get the person to comply with the house rules, and what the person has done to respond to the request by management to comply with the house rule, it would be a determination of the board to vote the fine, the administrative fee on that shareholder. I mean, this could be a shareholder that does something much worse than just feeding squirrels. But that shareholder repeatedly feeds squirrels. They don't care there's a house rule that says you're not supposed to do that.
Yeah, but I think maybe I would feel more comfortable if there was like a range or something, because we could just levy like any kind of, the sky is the limit.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's the point.
I think with that.
But if you're an illegal sublet, Maitri, if you're an illegal sublet, if you are illegally subletting your apartment, and you're taking all the money for yourself, and you haven't been approved by the tenant selection committee to have that sublet, we should have a right to fine you extensively.
You're actually in violation of your proprietary.
Right, and you're in violation. Thank you.
Yeah,
Doug.
let me just check this, Jerry, is that what you intended here, that this was to be, I didn't realize that, I misunderstood what this meant, a case by case, that the board would levy a particular fine on an individual person? Not a category of offense?
I pretty much thought of it as individual, but, I'm not on the board.
Well, I'm
so
asking, it's your
I
motion, I'm asking
thought
what
of
you
it
meant.
as more individualized.
Okay. Well, I would say I'm not gonna vote for that. I think, first of all, if there's something serious, for example, subletting, not repeated subletting, any subletting, we have a right to terminate the proprietary lease. Violation of the house rules, I haven't looked, but we probably have a right to terminate the proprietary lease. I'm not sure that the idea of our sitting down and creating a fine for this guy as opposed to that guy is a good idea.
Just so you know, to terminate a proprietary lease is a bear of an accomplishment. It's not something that's easily done, especially in the New York court system. So sometimes what you do is you implement, and I understand they use the word fee rather than fine on purpose, these fees in an effort to entice someone to hopefully reconsider their actions. And then the time that you potentially collect these fees, because a lot of them were paid initially, is that they're looking to refinance the unit, they're selling their unit, or they're looking to do an alteration, and that's your ability of when you generally can collect. Again, this is just a rule of thumb, it's not something.
No, I understand that, I understand your comment, and I understand the truth of it, but I would never want to, if somebody were illegally subletting, I would never vote to fine them. I would vote to fee them, or vet them.
Do
I would
both.
vote to terminate them. So
You can do
I-
both as well. You can do both. You're not just limited. You're gonna find them or implement the fee, and then also you can pursue other actions because of the legal sublets. You know, that's, again, it's gonna depend upon the infraction, but that's more severe.
I mean, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I feel like by having individual, I mean, I understand the justification for doing it on an individual basis, but we're all personalities here, and some people don't like other people, and
I
so
think
you can
that's
run into a
There's
retaliation,
abuse.
personal problems.
Potential.
So,
Potential.
I
The
think for that
fines are gonna be
reason,
levied on my.
So-
we really need
You are
to
all
say,
sick, you
maybe
sick
this is the first time someone did it, but then you say, now that's a new, and from now on, when someone does that, that is the fine, it's not that,
Right, there's a.
that when he does that, it costs that much, but
Right, I
when
think-
she does it, it costs that much.
That's the thing that.
That's,
Dan?
you know what we could do?
First of all,
Wait,
question,
wait, 1 second.
question for Keith, have you seen this work? I mean, you know, like somebody levies like a $400 fine or something that's just substantial, but not like, you know,
You have to be very careful with it. I'm sure you spoke with corporate counsel, they
Yeah.
indicated your fee has to be in line with what the action was.
Yeah.
So if you're sitting there, someone's feeding the squirrels, and then you're gonna implement a $10,000 fine,
That would be insane.
you're gonna go to court, and they're gonna laugh at you, they're gonna throw it out, and then you lost the ability of your credibility. So sometimes what you're gonna do is you're gonna look at, based upon the individual, you might say, you know what, they're gonna write a letter, they're gonna respond, say, I'm not gonna do it again, or whatever else. You're gonna have to evaluate that, and they're gonna be, if you're gonna be going to potential litigation over an L&T court, you're gonna make sure you're gonna wanna consult with your corporate counsel, because you don't wanna put yourself in a position that you create these fees and potentially then they're denied, because then it's useless.
Yeah,
let me just kind of.
I was gonna just have Russell, but, okay, yeah, you first.
I would support this. I mean, it really, it gives us some, you know, finally an enforcement mechanism against things that, you know, I mean, people are skirting the rules, whether it's the washer dryer stuff or the, you know, whatever it might be.
Oh, you mean the impounded washer
And I
dryer.
think that, you know, to the point of like, you know, of like vindictiveness, I mean, I think that we've got enough of a check on this board or whatever it is, that, you know, we're, you know, and I'm not saying like some crazy board at some point might do something crazy, but then there'll be a legal check on it. But, you know, but there'll be, you know, there's enough here that we come up with rational solutions to things, and I think this is good.
Russell.
For, as a practical matter, one of the things I would recommend is to avoid a personality or somebody not liking somebody. I can always bring it to the board as an anonymous, item. This is the person, here are their
That's a
10,
good
here are their 10 offense, this, you know, Mr. X, here are their 10 offenses, here are our 10 letters, or decide on a fee. Now, you're judging it solely upon the offenses, not the person.
Like that.
But let's not leave that up to management's discretion
No.
to do that, let's put that in
Yeah,
motion.
that should go in motion.
No, it says, the
No, the
discretion.
business of unanimity of these
Anonymity.
personalized anonymity, right?
Anonymity.
That should be part of the motion, not go to.
Well, Jerry, how would you add it? Wait, let give Jerry a chance, he's gonna make a.
How about at the end of it, such violations shall be presented to the board in an anonymous fashion?
Hold on, was it anonymous or unanimous?
No,
I'm sorry, that was my
Anonymous,
mistake.
this way nobody knows who's doing the violations.
You know.
I don't know who feeds the squirrels, Dan.
I have no idea. I don't even know who the people are that are walking on the grass, but I know people are doing it.
Such violations shall be presented to the board in an anonymous fashion
Right,
and an appropriate fee levied.
okay?
I didn't know I was supposed to read the motion, I'm sorry.
No. But we'll change it into a motion, because it'll say move, that the following language be added to the House rule dealing with administrative fees. That's what this is gonna, then you read the rest of the motion out. Dan?
Okay, so I misheard something that I think is a better idea. I like the idea, I mean, you know, I think it's tough, and not, because, I mean, we have a right to kind of, I think it's gonna be tough, when we're all a community, somebody's gonna know something that's, and people are gonna buzz about it, and then it'll get out, or get out among the board. But what about if we sort of set ourselves to like a higher, like a unanimous or a near unanimous vote for the violation? That way you're at least negotiating something amongst ourselves, or, somebody can hold out to,
What if it's a board member?
Yeah, I was gonna say, how about 2/3?
Because the problem with what you're saying though, Dave, too, is if one person on the board knows that individual, and you know what, just leave it alone.
So like 2/3.
But yeah, that's gonna be a little
No,
more.
if a board member fits their neighbor and a good friend, then they have to recuse themselves. They can't-
That's the right way to behave.
That's the right way.
It's the right way, but unfortunately,
Yeah,
in the world that I see.
That's qualitative though.
I agree with you totally.
Somebody somehow, some way, maybe, whether it's, right? I mean,
No, but I
you
mean,
sort
if
of-
you have like a personal relationship, yeah, we all know each other, but I understand what you're saying.
What would you like to make it in, so we can
get a
get,
2/3 majority, they have to be voted on by 2/3 majority.
what's 2/3 of this board?
We don't have
It's not
2/3 of a
Yeah,
vote.
I think that would be,
It's not very hard to make it.
38.
8, right?
How does that solve the problem?
2/3
Well, it'll be
present.
unanimous, and 2/3 was vote.
2/3 present.
Right, so if you have a quorum, and you only have,
2/3
Present.
so now you come.
Okay, so two-thirds
That's
of
it.
those present voting, of those voting present, 2/3 of those voting present.
You can't
Board
just
member.
vote if you're not present.
2/3 of those present.
It would be 7.26.
Go, today.
Why don't you make a motion to where people
Now,
can
there's
say-
something not right about
Wait,
that.
we're falling apart here, just, let's see. There's 2/3, we're trying, Jerry's gonna put the language in there, but does anyone have a different idea of ratio, or is 2/3 okay? Before you, let's stick with the,
Right. But
Yvonne.
I don't really see how the ratio is going to protect somebody, as opposed to what Russell had suggested, the anonymity.
oh, it'd be unanimous and 2/3.
But the 2/3 vote, how does that, I mean, I
Well,
think we should just vote,
Because
have the courage, right?
Well, no, because it just, well,
Yeah.
it protects against the tyranny of the majority, of the majority. There's
But it's
a
the
board.
tyranny of the minority as well.
Yeah, it
It can
does.
work that way as well.
Because-
So
yeah.
that's the only thing, I just,
Somebody who
you're
just
right,
like
something,
stops
but
and
I'm not
blocks
really,
everything.
yeah, exactly.
Go ahead, Chief.
Yeah. I think regarding the vote, like some board members will already do this, like they call in, right? The phone call in that comes. And then, but the other
But
thing
they're
is.
present, that would be present,
Right,
Chief.
yeah. For this motion, I think, is there an urgency we have to pass today?
Yeah.
Because I really need to think about it. It seems it's not that simple.
Does anybody,
So maybe we have
is
some
there a
time
feeling,
to
Chief,
think.
hang on 1 second. Is
Yeah.
there a feeling that we should wait until next month?
I don't know, but can I make it, I just had.
That's, everyone would like to do that?
I think
Jerry,
we should about it.
you'll come back
Sure.
with maybe even more ideas about this?
Yeah,
You know?
I just had a thought, I mean, I don't know, maybe it shouldn't be a question of voting. If it's policy, it's policy. So if Russell comes and says, maybe it should be the number of violations as opposed to whether or not we think we should fine these people. If you have X number of violations, or it's this type of violation, this is what you're
You're
going
gonna
to
get
be,
fined.
gonna get fined.
That's what
And
I
it
said to
shouldn't be
begin
a
with,
vote
that
at
there
all.
should be some
But-
clear cut, yeah. But it shouldn't just be
rather than-
random.
Sorry?
It shouldn't just be like open-ended, there should be like, if you do this, then
Exactly,
it's
but
this.
that's what I mean, if you've been warned 5 times to remove the skateboards from the hallway, and Russell says, this, Mr. X has not done it.
And he has
this is
five
fine.
notices.
5 notices, the charge goes out, and it doesn't have to be a vote, it just, because,
But what's the
They-
charge then?
well,
But that's
I
what I
think
think
you
you
have
like,
to
I don't-
fix,
Would
you
you-
have to fix, you really have to
But-
fix a fee.
As long as it's
I
gonna
think you
go.
have to fix fees
Yeah.
on it, and not just
Yeah.
decide.
All right,
you
so
know,
here's,
should
I
know
think,
what it
so, taking what you've heard here, will you take that
Yeah.
and back, and you'll come back next month for us?
Right, but let
Okay.
me just ask one question if I may.
Sure.
What would anybody think of a fee that is set, I don't know, I'll just throw out a number, $500, for something, and make it a monthly fee?
So.
For a continued, until the person, Well, until the person stopped doing what it was that they were
Be
doing.
like an illegal subdivision.
Well, no, it could be someone who leaves their
And-
stuff
but
outside
if
the
it's-
hallway against the wall, in front of their apartment.
You
I
can
think-
stagger
I
that
think
too,
that
first
is-
month's 50, second month's 100,
Well,
then 50.
that's
We're already at-
Yeah, right. And
No,
then-
but you're talking about higher fees now, that's what he's saying. If
Right,
it's a
I'm not
higher
talking
fee.
about after that, then you could go ahead and say, it's, and I just threw 500 at it. I'm just saying, is this what you want me to come back with?
Does
Something along
anybody
those
would
lines.
like to speak to that? Yvonne?
No, I also wanted to.
Could you
go
speak
back-
to that first?
Yes, oh, this,
Okay.
yeah, it is, in addition to that, yeah, I think that's a good idea, but I think if it's something, we really have to define what
Gotcha.
what people are violating, because an illegal sublet, for example, as Doug said, I mean, that's a violation of your proprietary lease. So, but it takes forever to go through court to get somebody out, it's not really realistic. And we don't necessarily want them to get them out, we want them to stop violating the rules. So you add a caveat, you know, in addition to the 500 a month, whatever it is, until you cure this problem. If it's something like a sublet, I think you have to have some sort of threat about legal action to have them, you know, removed as shareholders.
Okay.
And
Jerry?
maybe that will make them pay faster.
Jerry, what would be yahoo.com if you have other ideas?
No, he
Email
must
them
be.
to me and I will get them incorporated.
All right, so here's
And you
what.
agree to withdrawing the motion?
Yeah,
Oh, yes.
Yeah, because you made it. So you're gonna take that back, okay? And that'll be fine. So let's go to the last one.
Finally, just to take you to 10:30, balcony and terrace alterations. It was.
We're gonna be here way past 10:30.
Well, I mean, I'm just bringing you up to 10:30. So there was a problem that was brought up that routinely terrace and balcony alterations were being approved that actually weren't following the policy, the house rules, which said that there could be no alterations of the exterior wall, which is the wall that is the brick wall, even if you enclose the other part of your terrace or balcony. The sense that I got was that the board would like to continue to allow people to run electricity to enclosed terraces and balconies to increase the value of the apartments. So, so what we wrote, there are some things that are crossed out that are very hard to see. It's that semicolon, which was obviously a typo, which is now a colon. So it's Rule 12C, balcony and terrace enclosures, definition of the exterior of the apartment. The shareholder shall not make any improvements or changes that affect the exterior of the apartment or building. For example, changing a window frame, the changes, get rid of the word "or" here, replacing an apartment entrance door, and then the new wording is, or running an electric line to the balcony or terrace, that's the end of the parentheses, except as approved in writing by the corporation's management. So the idea there was that, you know, certainly any alteration that you're going to make has to be approved by management anyway. But this is just underscoring that that is an alteration that could be made and would be acceptable.
Okay? Do we have somebody moving it? John, it's moved. Okay, any further discussion? Yes. John B., go ahead.
Yeah, but I know that like many years ago, we saw some people like in the balconies, area porch, they already have lights, like for their plants or something. So, but I don't know whether, but there's no one really, I don't know how they question that. But I think.
We're not trying to prevent it, we're
Yeah.
trying to sanction it, there's a
Right,
difference.
I just don't know whether those people, they are following our like guidance of the, whatever, upgrade or the rules. So are we going to check or we're just?
We're just
starting
going to put the
now?
language in and just make sure that everyone complies with how to drill out or run the line, or at least let management know what they're doing. This has to be, it goes into renovation, I assume it'll go into the renovation agreement. And,
There's a special one, there's a special one for balcony edition.
It's going forward.
Or enclosed.
yeah, so going forward,
Yeah.
yeah, because it's, whatever's done is done.
It's anything else.
It's grandfathered,
Right.
yeah.
Okay, so can we move this? Okay? John C. had to go outside, I guess, but John D. moved it. Okay, so, all in favor? All right, well, we didn't make the motion, but this is what the motion is. At 12C, let's do it this way. I think it's a smarter move. We didn't approve it.
No intent.
At the House Rule 12C, have the following additional language added, or changes made to it. We have to take out the word "or." That's a strikeout, right? Or is stricken in this thing?
Or is stricken.
Or, and then,
Do you wanna just say shall read as follows?
oh, shall read, better. Shall read as follows, and then just copy the whole thing out, okay? So everybody understand what we're doing? It's the balcony terrace enclosure, Rule 12C, balcony shall read as follows, and it'll be the exact language that says the shareholder shall not make, et cetera, right to the end. Okay?
Without
Yes.
the correction.
Do you move that?
No, I
It
thought
already
we were
was
speaking to it.
Oh, it is moved. Okay, now you can speak
I'm
to
the
it.
only one, but I don't think we should be piercing the exteriors of our building, so I will be going against it.
Okay.
I don't
So-
expect anyone to agree with me.
All in favor? Okay?
Hold on, I need names. on
Hold
this
them up,
one.
hold them up.
I just said it.
Let's
I
put it on,
don't think- I don't think we should be
YMC,
piercing the exterior of our
red.
building.
Any yeses over here?
Yes, all three are yeses.
Just for the
Yeah,
record.
She, Maitri, and Dan are yeses, am I correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Just for the record. it
Oh,
doesn't say
yes.
piercing.
And
It doesn't say
who's the
rubber.
no, or abstention? No's first?
We know what.
No, we gotta,
No.
no, okay. Abstention?
Abstain.
Abstain, okay? And John was here. All right?
One no.
We are now officially closed in open session. We will move to a closed session, open session. We're gonna move to closed session immediately. 10-minute break, 7-minute break. 7-minute break.
Yeah, someone